Put down your pencils, get your controllers ready. It's the last final. This is the 2021 PIEA State Championships.
They say that good things come to those who wait.
There he is, peeking around the corner.
That is pure skill right there.
That patience is a virtue.
They need to make something happen here. This is it.
But what if you play with a reckless abandonment?
Oh, what a play! I can't believe they just pulled that off. That took serious guts.
Rely on impulse to guide your decisions.
Oh my gosh, did you see that?
What a play. They're on another level right now.
Is preparation more important than instinct?
Fire in the hole!
There are not many people who can pull that off.
What a play.
The wait is over. The community is watching. The PIEA Overwatch Finals start now.
It's another beautiful day as we pass over the scenic view of Philadelphia in Pennsylvania. We welcome you back to the second day of week 2 for the 2021 PIEA State Esports Championships. We had a victory go for North Catholic High School yesterday in the grand finals for Rocket League. But today we get to bring you the Overwatch conclusion for the State Esports Championships to see who's going to take it all of the 4 remaining teams. I am your caster, Rich Rad, here with Kenobi, and I cannot wait to see how this adventure is going to unfold, my friend, for these 4 remaining teams.
How it's going to unfold and how it's also going to end for one of these teams, because we are finally at our final 4. The top 4 teams remain. A lot of effort by all of these teams to get to this point, but now there's only one team that can win, and who is going to be that team from that final 4? I'm excited to get it going and figure it out, because we have a great day of Overwatch planned ahead.
And let's take a look at how we found ourselves here today, as it all started with 21 teams participating over an initial 8-week season, falling to 16 back on the 11th into the quarterfinals, where the 16 teams were dwindled down to 8, and now finding ourselves in this semifinal position today with the grand finals later this evening, all in a single elimination best of 5, my friend.
We had a lot of 3-0s last week, as you can see in some of our highlights that we're going to be seeing shortly, but hopefully today, no 3 Overwatch. We're going to get some close games, and I definitely feel like we're finally at a point with all 4 of these teams where it is definitely possible that these games will be closer. I think this is the cream of the crop when it comes to high school Overwatch here in Pennsylvania. So I think it's going to be a great day of Overwatch. And you can already see from the highlights, I mean, this was just last week. Can you imagine what these teams are going to do this week? It's just going to be on a whole nother level.
Absolutely. And one of the big things that we talked about is just the coordination from these individuals, but also trying to be able to flaunt some of their independent skills as well. And finding that happy nature between the two is a critical feat to claim right now entering into these, because again, this is a do or die moment. There is no double elimination bracket. It is single elimination. So you don't get that redemption round to find yourself competing or having a second go around, Kenobi.
Yeah, it's just all do or die right now, and if you win one of these games, you still have to play another one. That's the other thing. There's a lot. This is also a test of endurance, right? You win a semifinal and you have to go play a grand final right after that. There is a lot of Overwatch on the table today for the teams that get to those grand finals. So, like I said, that test of endurance is going to come here, and we have the bracket to show you who potentially can get to those grand finals. As you can see, sponsored by Sheets. We had the 3 Overwatches in the quarterfinal, and now we're moving into our semis here. Susquehanna Township, that's our number 1 seed. That's who a lot of the eyes are on right now, because with that number 1 seed comes a lot of that pressure, and they're facing Garnet Valley in our first matchup, which is going to be, I think, a pretty good one, because these two teams did play during the regular season, and it was a very, very close matchup. 2-1, I believe the score was, but now we get a best of 5 series with them, so a lot more good Overwatch is possible, and I think it's definitely one that could go 5.
And before we dive more into that, we'll take a look at our predictions going into this last final day of finals. I myself, for the HyperX prediction, have chosen to go with Manheim Township, despite Susquehanna managing to be that number 1 seed. I still feel that this golden run for them is a critical dynamic that we just want to keep seeing run the gauntlet.
Looks like me and you are on the same page, Rich, because I also have Manheim Township going to be the team that takes everything here because, again, you talked about it, that golden run. They haven't lost a map yet. That is an insane streak, and to see that continue and take the championship, that would be an incredible turnout. But, again, I think it's fair to say for everyone here that these top 4 teams, I feel like any of them have a chance to win. I said this after the broadcast last week with all their play in the quarterfinals. I think anyone has a real chance, but for you and I, we are going to be with Manheim, and that's going to be who we are putting our money on if we were gambling men. But I mean, I'm not very good at it, so.
Well,
you know,
I'm not either, but despite the gambling part of it, let's be honest about what these students are going to be walking home with. This is a guarantee, no ifs, ands, or buts, as you're going to have scholarship money going $1,400 to that #1 winner, claiming this entire tournament. And then for the second place, they still get to walk home with a little bit of change, the $600 in their back pocket that they get for their scholarship and education as well, which is a huge opportunity, with big shout outs to our sponsors who have allowed that to be an opportunity for their students, not only to grow themselves into a career that they love, but also to be playing, you know, esports and video games that they love just as much.
And speaking of sponsors, we do have to shout out our sponsor, Sector 6. Sector 6 is the official apparel provider of the PIEA. PIEA members can receive special offers by logging on to the URL listed below to get started customizing their official championship jersey or any number of other apparel items. And Rich, you and I, you might have seen it on broadcast, we do have some PIEA merch, and it is pretty comfortable, I gotta say.
Absolutely. I'm feeling it right now. I mean, it's just sleek, it's slimming, and I just love every moment of it. But, you know, with us talking about that,
I like a lot.
It's definitely a benefit, especially when we're all sitting at home for extended periods of time and not being able to see the light of day. But like we said, the light of day isn't going to be anywhere near here, as all of you at home tuning in and watching will be seeing some amazing Overwatch action, as we are going to have Susquehanna coming out first against Garnet Valley High School. And you mentioned even earlier that they have seen each other once before.
They have, and realistically in this matchup, the matchup I'm looking out for is that DPS matchup, because we have one really good DPS on Susquehanna, that is EHT, who popped off in the quarterfinals. Almost was like, besides Zeets, I think on the main tank, was kind of carrying the team. And then there's Luke on the other side for Garnet Valley, who realistically was a carry, has that Pharah that they can bring to the table. On Lijiang Tower, there are 2 maps like Night Market and Light Gardens where the Pharah could be seen, but also this map is very good for Susquehanna because they have the ability to play that rush style of composition, as we can go into game here very soon. Rich, we're getting started here. It's the start of finals day between both these teams. Let's get going.
Out the doors in just seconds as it dwindles. You can see on your screen, we'll finally get these compositional loadouts so we can really get a better understanding of what we might just see. You commented about the Pharah play. EHT going to come out here to make sure that they've got that opportunity to have that aerial positioning, but a Symmetra as well from GVHS.
And I like what GVHS has been doing here, just going straight to the point, using that teleporter and setting up their defenses. This is the greatest way to play this, because against the Pharah's going to have a little bit of a harder time getting a lot of that spam in. So Garnet Valley doing already a good job positioning here on this point, using the geometry to their advantage.
EHT attempting to get those rockets in, but like you said, just went, oh my goodness, that is going to force out instantly Mercy Main's Immortality Field, and now the aggression comes through, but Zeets is down, who's been a prime member for Susquehanna to try and continue to maintain point presence, but EHT is still dwindling some numbers. There's presence in advancement for GVHS, and they're going to be able to take this early percent.
Garnet Valley don't have any healers, though, in this fight, so it's just a matter of time before Susquehanna are going to be able to win and take over this point. A huge anti-nade from Knuckle Bunny starts this off. If that nade hits it hits 5 people, forces out so many important cooldowns, forces out that immortality field, forces out the healing from the Baptiste, and then once that immortality field is done, so much spam comes in from Susquehanna that Garnet Valley is just not able to deal with it. So Garnet Valley does get a little bit of time, but now you have here Susquehanna, who are in control of all these sightlines. They can play a little aggressively with that Pharah, and EHT has this barrage.
GVHS now going to go in, instant flashbang onto Zeets, managing to remove that key tank front line, but with the barrage to counter, it does look to equalize, and a res comes back out. Despite that early loss on the tank, there is still a steady recovery for Susquehanna, and they managed to keep this percent climbing.
And it's another huge anti-nade from Knuckle Buddy. That's the second one. Snowy really has to figure out where these anti-nades are coming from, because if those anti-nades keep hitting pay dirt like this, it's just going to be Susquehanna Township High continuously moving forward and rotating their ultimates well enough to where it's going to be Garnet Valley always in a deficit when it comes to their ultimate tempo. They're coming in here with the Blizzard, but Susquehanna can play around this and not fight directly onto it.
Knuckle Bunny a little bit blocked here, again with the Maywall, still getting some decent sight lines though to keep the tank line high, as you already have an early pick off onto both DPS. GVHS have to fall back here and can't look to continue committing.
Yeah, Mercy Lane, by the way, is going to go down, and once the Baptiste is down, that's all the healing, and this is just going to be cleanup right now for Susquehanna. 75% for them. It's going to come in on 2 seats, so they get all 5 members. Emperor goes a little bit too over-aggressive, so this might be a moment where Garnet Valley can try and recontest. But, Rich, we're in that last fight territory. You have a grab available. There is also that Genji Blade, so grab Genji Blade, definitely a possibility here in this next fight. But you also have a lot of ultimates coming in from Garnet Valley. A lot of particle effects going to be here in this next fight.
Yep, it's a lit match and a factory of fireworks with so many being committed. You've got the Blizzard to come out to try and isolate into the corner, but the Rocket Barrage just being outside of the radius, coming in from the Pingu, not getting that lockdown onto the far. The res comes through after EHT manages to get the Rocket Barrage out, but surprisingly in the end of this, you actually still see that GVHS takes advantage of this, holding on to a couple key ultimates that they can try to snowball for the long run, but there's still some contention. This Pharah is relentless in continuing to keep point presence. There's a Tracer swap with Zeets going on the wrecking ball, but this should ultimately be GVHS taking it back.
Good target selection from Snowy as well, understanding that realistically, once you take that Mercy out of the sky, the Pharah isn't going to be as much of a threat, so that's how Garnet Valley wins that fight. Susquehanna have to switch up their composition a little bit back to their original one because they had some stall swaps with the Hammond, so Zeet's gonna reset a little bit of his ultimate charge there, but Nano Boost is available here for Knuckle Bunny. Expect that to probably go onto the Winston and create a lot of space with this engagement, then the DPS can follow up after that.
And you can see this nice divide and conquer from Susquehanna, getting a lot of rockets just behind the shield. The Baptiste is down, that's huge. Cheesy Fries is gonna put a lot of assistance on this team, moving with the utility and attempting to recover from the damage. And actually, you're going to see GVHS manage to persevere here, despite them losing Mercy Main on the Baptiste. What a stellar recovery.
Stellar recovery. Again, Snowy does a very good job targeting out that Mercy. The team, in general, between Luke and between Snowy, have been doing a very good job of forcing that Mercy into uncomfortable areas and taking them out. And once the Pharah doesn't have a Mercy in this enclosed area, Pharah is very much easier to kill. And we're at the point right now where it's at 70% for Garnet Valley. If they win this next fight, they might have a chance to just win the map altogether.
You've got EHT taking that elevated position, has to be so careful. Self-destruct overhead. Is there going to be ability to hide behind the wall? Does still clip the support, and Zeets goes down up front. 6 versus 4. A Rocket Barrage now attempting to try and reduce the numbers of GVHS, but they still have dominant numbers and look to press the attack.
Very good recovery here from Garnet Valley. 90% in ticking. Desperation has to be here for Susquehanna. They have to get someone at the point. EHT has switched over to the Tracer just to try and probably touch. Here comes a Primal Rage, though.
Susquehanna have to force it out to get onto the point into the overtime, attempting to knock back the supports as you do see the recovery back towards the point. GVHS not wavering away from it because the focus is still there with the Blizzard coming out, the Immortality Field as well, getting that great spatial awareness and control of the point. But a big Bionade comes out, but the sound barrier from Cheesy Fries will completely nullify the opportunity that Knuckle Bunny had, and these picks are still steadily, slowly, and surely going in favor of GVHS, where they will take this first map of Gardens on Li Zhang. But mind you, it was not an easy one.
Very close, and again, I love the adaptation, what I saw from GVHS there, where they were focusing down the Mercy specifically. They know that in this composition, Pharmacy is really what takes this composition to the promised land, and once you take out that Mercy again in these enclosed areas, Pharah is very easy to kill, so that was some really good adaptation from GVHS to really figure out who they want to target and take down one of the most important members of Susquehanna Township's high school's composition. So now we'll see a little bit of a swap here as we go into Night Market. This is usually where we do see these sim TPs go directly onto point. And a lot of the time, the team that wins the first fight basically wins the map because you get so much percentage, you get your Symmetra all charged up, you get to control point with the turrets. It's just a nightmare to go through. So this first fight is going to be incredibly important.
Who gains the better end of this exchange? do see Zeets very low up front. Honestly, that's one of the surprising things that we've seen is how overwhelmed Zeets has been, who was so dominant and that we saw in the previous week, having to play a lot more cautiously here. Does have point presence in advancement of GVHS, but GVSS actually still going to be able to hold on here in the long run. Once again, Immortality Field comes out, sustains, and claims the point.
They were able to, GVHS was able to hold on to the point right there and push Susquehanna Township back away from it. So that meant, again, the Symmetras getting charged up. The Symmetras also have the turrets set up now. The only realistically good thing in silver lining for Susquehanna is that they're going to have the photon barrier for this next fight, so they can block a lot of incoming damage. But Luke, not necessarily quite there just yet. This is a slight advantage that Susquehanna has before they take this fight.
Yeah, Susquehanna looking now with that amplification matrix to enter in onto this. You do have Mercy main dropping theirs first. You can just see Cool, Calm, Collective waiting for it to drop to enter in on their own as they've got now the boost, the damage through the window. The May wall is there as a photon barrier comes out. A lot being committed to this so that they can enter in onto this point and try and take it back, but no one has gone down quick enough. And the damage from EHT hasn't been significantly grown, but that fire strike through the damage boost sure as heck will, and manages to take the advancement on this point. Even though there's a sound barrier by Cheesy Fries, actually it might be enough here, Kenobi, to hold on.
I mean, EHT is still alive here, trying their best, but no one on Susquehanna took care of the turrets, and the turrets melted through their entire composition, and Garnet Valley are still able to win this fight. They're able to hold it. It's so difficult, again, taking these engagements on point when Symmetra is set up. They have to make sure those turrets are being taken down, or else the Symmetra, if they're still alive, will melt through. And that's exactly what happens now. Just gonna keep testing here. They're going to have a sound barrier and a shatter. Blizzard 2. Gotta be looking out for that defense matrix kind of getting.
Zeets rotating around the outside, does get separated. The Blizzard gonna play onto the corner. You have to bail out of there. You have to cryo freeze, even forced out by Emperor early because they couldn't escape the circle, as it's a 1-for-1 exchange. Now leading in favor. It's still 2 down.
Huge
4
shatter.
versus 4 in this desperate play, as the shatter might be enough to sway it, and it's not going to be. You just have Bijan cleaning up right now with the remaining individuals and getting a nice stagger onto Baby Diva.
And we're ticking up. It's going to be 99%, and that's going to be it. Garnet Valley at the start here, putting the #1 seed down 1-0 with a great performance on Night Market there. You know, Gardens was pretty good as well with the understanding and adaptation to deal with the Pharah Mercy, and then the Symmetra play. Beautiful from Luke on that map, and that's going to be, again, 1-0 for the underdogs.
You know, we gave a lot of credit last week to Susquehanna and how they played coordinated, and you mentioned that they've seen each other once before where Garnet Valley had not been able to take the victory over this #1 seed. But honestly, there has been some definite level up coming out from Garnet Valley to come into this game strong, very confidently. The first map not being as, you know, vastly different, was into that 99-99, but that second map was much more convincing by Garnet Valley.
Yeah, the second map, I mean, again, it's one of those maps where Symmetra maps are really difficult to kind of recontest into, and you saw exactly that. A fight that looked like it was completely won for Susquehanna didn't end up really getting a lot of value because the turrets are still there, the Symmetra is still alive, photon barrier, etc., etc. So I think, all things considered, this is kind of the most mortal I've seen Susquehanna look, because they 3-0'd pretty convincingly, and Zeets, you know, the team has always been like very aggressive, very proactive, but Garnet Valley seems to be the ones who are doing what Susquehanna does to other teams to them now. So this is a little interesting for me, especially when we go into our second map when we figure out what that is, because I wonder if the adaptation will be there from Susquehanna now, because they haven't really been in a position where they needed to adapt too much. But now, down 0-1 against Garnet Valley, now the pressure's a little bit on them. And again, they are that #1 seed, so that pressure kind of mounts and stacks a little bit.
I mean, and you can see the responsiveness that Garnet Valley is having to Susquehanna. They've just managed to, especially from that first map, those bionades that we mentioned were huge. Right at the start of it, absolutely swinging and shifting those fights in favor of Susquehanna. But if those bionades don't land, that is a huge opportunity for Garnet Valley to take over. And this Diva play from Snowy is extremely stellar. I mean, we saw multiple self-destruct values last week, a lot of great eats coming out as well. So that is a big factor that once they're adapting and realizing, hey, this bionade's a real key factor we got to get rid of, Snowy's right on it and paying close attention.
Snowy was right on the anti-nades at the very end. They were also on the Mercy again. I thought it was a great idea from the D.Va to just basically glaze her in on the Mercy against the Pharmacy and be like, okay, you're not going to be able to play the game at all, right? Like, I am going to take you out, and then your Pharah is not going to really be that much of a threat to us. So I think, again, the adaptation and the understanding of target selection, much better, I think, from Garnet Valley on that first map. But we're going to a second map. This is going to be the map pick of Susquehanna because they are the ones who lost that first map. They're picking Blizzard World, and this is kind of a map where I think they can bring themselves back a bit, because this is a map where EHT can realistically do some really good things. Has a lot of open space to play with, can bring out the Tracer, bring out the Doom, possibly bring out that Widowmaker if they'd like. This is a map where I think EHT can really bring some DPS mechanical play to the forefront and try and get Susquehanna that first win.
And we're hopping into the game now to see if that composition is going to hold true. The Doomfist and the McCree were very, very dominant from this team, but this time we're actually going to have a little bit of an adjustment here. You're going to actually see the... Okay, so you're going to have the Mei and Luke on the McCree for GVHS, while on the opposing side, it actually looks like there is a disconnection for the time. So it looks like there is the second DPS that is not available, so we'll give them a brief moment to connect. But that could be, like we talked about, that McCree and the Doomfist. But typically it was EHT that had that Doomfist play. Very confident, synergizing well with their co-DPS to play that McCree, where it has a lot of the crowd control in the back with the flashbang, still giving some space for EHT to do work up front and generate that shield. But the other part is, too, is we're going to have Garnet Valley on the defensive side first with their composition with the McCree and the Mei, which is not a bad pick here for them to go into this.
Now, standard rush, I think, for this composition, especially on the defensive end, they lack a little bit of range with this composition, so it depends on what, Susquehanna is going to bring to the table. It looks like they're just, they're prepping already for Overwatch 2. They're just like, oh, okay, well, we got to have 5 members on our team now. That's just how it is. But I think for Susquehanna, what I'd like to see from them is a little bit more reliance on EHT and possibly Zeitz as well, because I think Zeitz in a Rush v Rush mirror plays a lot like the Alpha Rhine, right? Where it's just like, I need to go in and I need to win this tank battle. And that's how we're going to, create space for players like EHT. But EHT is a player who can create space for themselves as well. So I think those are the two key personnel I'm looking out for Susquehanna going into this next map, because that is going to be, I think, where Susquehanna really thrives. Also, if Knuckle Bunny can still hit these anti-nades, but feels mostly like Garnet Valley is wise to that, and I don't think we'll see any Annas if we are playing like a Winston composition, right?
It's kind of like a Two-Face moment where you've got like the good side of Harvey, where it's like, yeah, I'm going to be the tank that my team needs. But then the other side is like, but I want to make sure that I show this other tank that I'm the dominant tank here. It's like, I'm going to flip my coin. Absolutely. And again, that's something that I've really, really been keeping an eye on too, because we commented Zeitz there were so many highlights last week from Zeitz, and just pop-off moments of where acknowledging of the bio-nades, or when it came out to weak points of their opponent, instantly exploited. Here, on the other hand, until we get into this map, control is a little bit interesting because it is more of that brawly on-point position, and Night Market, like you said, is a very unique situation with the Symmetras. I'm really looking to see how now, as we're entering back into Blizzard World, how that's going to change and evolve, competing against Garnet Valley, who now have this 1-point lead,
And I think as well on the defensive end here, and I actually am interested to see if that Hanzo sticks for Susquehanna Township, because if that Hanzo does stick, that means that there is a slight range advantage here for Susquehanna's composition. On the defensive end, though, this is a very short-range composition where they want to brawl on point, and it looks like actually Susquehanna is going to opt into the Brawl v Brawl. So just a full mirror right here. And what I'm going to be looking out for are those Baptiste Immortality fields. Those can really dictate who wins the fight first. If they're forced out early or if they're used incorrectly, the other team has a slight advantage with all of their effective HP that they get from the Immortality fields. So look out for those going into these next couple of fights.
And GVHS has a really quick responsiveness to rolling back when they feel that they're at an uncomfortable position. They abandoned the high ground, went back to the point. He's got EHT. We're going to rotate around the outside with the McCree play, as Emperor is going to just try and get some slows and crowd controls up front with the Mei. Both Immortality fields no longer in the kit for either team. This Cryo Freeze up front, a little bit further forward, is going to make it very challenging to recover from. The wall tries to divide, finally get the Pingu going down, but who Zeitz in the meantime, as Bijan also gets taken out. Just 1-for-1 exchange. Basically the mere takedowns of these teams, and still remaining with 4 trying to take it back, Kenobi.
And Mercy May, by the way, so low here, 18 health, but doesn't manage to get taken down, and Garnet Valley will hold this defense. The respawns are a little bit farther away, so Susquehanna has a little bit of advantage if they want to play aggressively here.
You can see this fall back, attempting to hide as EHT does force a zoning ultimate to try and get the advantage. You can now see that that pressure has gotten a lot of advantage, moving up front, continuing to rotate around that side shop with merchandise being thrown all around, but GVHS paying the patient, just slow, methodical game here, despite that lead, allows 1 point to go, but still takes the fight.
And I really love what Garnet Valley does there, where they know that they're at a disadvantage, so they back up a little bit. They let Susquehanna take that first tick, and they're like, a first tick, it's not the end of the world. We can still re-engage with our ultimates, and that's exactly what they do. See, Cheese Fries is going to have that sound barrier in this next fight. That's a big deal because there's a Blizzard on the other side for Susquehanna, and Squinton is not at theirs just yet. So this is a slight advantage here that Garnet Valley has, but Garnet Valley does the aggressive thing and just uses the Blizzard first. I love this.
Just, you know, we normally talk about the second Blizzard gets more value, but in this case, just because of the wall, the Blizzard ultimate, and also the rotation around it, just really allowed GVHS to take that outright. And look at this stagger now.
Yeah, this stagger is going to be great as well. They aren't going to let them get the remake. Perfectly timed. Garnet Valley is just playing absolutely phenomenal right now. The proactive play, they're not letting Susquehanna ever get a chance to set themselves up. And now Susquehanna is at a point where a minute and 30 seconds is all that's left for them. They get 2, potentially 3 more shots at this. And Garnet Valley is looking pretty decent with their ultimate economy as well. So Susquehanna really has to make something happen in this next fight, or they're in danger of getting held.
Yeah, Emperor needs to find massive pay dirt with this Blizzard. Shatter comes out, does get 1, but there is a counter Shatter in the meantime by Vjan, taking out Zeets. Again, losing that main tank up front so quickly, the reset has to come through at 60 seconds.
Perfect wall there from the Pingu. They take out the Reinhardt directly after it as well. Here comes the self-destruct, though. Shield is in the way, but the Pingu goes down somehow. Oh, no.
1 for 1. You still have this 5 versus 5 as the supports drop the sound barriers. The beats have been played. The defense matrix is there, being knocked about as a self-destruct from Snowy manages to get the bad piece of the back line as the engagement still comes up front. With that, McCree overwhelmed. You do have STHS abandoning and bailing to not find themselves in a staggered position again to get this third fight, like you mentioned.
And 30 seconds is all that's left, and I love what Garnet Valley is doing. They're chasing these kills here. They want to make sure that Susquehanna will not get another recontest, but everyone at Susquehanna is able to get away, and this is last fight here, Rich. 18 seconds is all that's left. Emperor has to make something happen with this Blizzard here. They don't have any other ultimates besides the High Noon. And there comes the Ant Matrix, just zone them off, take time away from the clock. They have to go the long way.
EHT taking the outer position. The main wall is there with the Immortality Field forced out very early in this, securing that it's dropped, but I don't know if that's going to be the best opportunity for them. As a counter Blizzard comes through, you finally have Emperor dropping theirs as you've got the Pingu generating a second one in the meantime to drop one of their own. An attempt to get that second tick, but you still have Luke dominating in the backline with a sliver of health, mind you. Has anybody been keeping monitor on how small that pixel was for the DPS in the back to be maintained? The overtime dwindle, the focus fire falls, and Susquehanna is not able to complete that first round, but I do have to say they did get at least 1 tick on the board.
They did get a tick, so it is winnable. That is the scenario here. Susquehanna does have a chance to win. It is a very slim chance, though. It's not often that you are able to secure fuller holds, but if there is a team that can do it, I think it is Susquehanna. But again, Garnet Valley, this proactive play has just been phenomenal to watch so far. Just Susquehanna, every time they tried to engage, there was always a perfect wall from the Pingu, always just making, like, separating the Reinhardt from the rest of the team. Blizzards were coming in way before Susquehanna was able to ever use them. I think Emperor had their Blizzard for about, like, a minute and a half, not using it because the ultimates from Garnet Valley were just coming in so aggressively and so proactively. It's just keeping Susquehanna on their toes, because Susquehanna is a team that likes to play that aggressive style, but if you catch them off guard, there's not really a place to fall back on for them.
I would honestly say so far of this match, the Pingu is like the MVP player. I mean, don't get me wrong, everybody else has been playing stellar. I agree with you 100% that there has been a lot of evolution for Garnet Valley as we've seen them over the course of the season and into these playoffs. But, I mean, that was just some seriously overwhelming, unchecked play by the Pingu going into this now, as we do see a little bit of a shift from EHT going onto the Echo, Kenobi.
Echo on the defensive end here offers a little bit more of that long-range spam instead of the McCree, but you don't have the flashbang. That's going to be something that I'm a little bit worried about because you don't have the flashbang to kind of win the Reinhardt 1v1. You don't have that utility, but you have a lot of burst damage. So if you can get members low, then I think it can work out really well. But EHT is going to have to really, really find some openings here.
And a lot of spam from overhead. Nobody yet checking EHT. The sticky bombs come up front to dwindle that shield value from Jan up front as they play patiently to get some decent energy charge back online as the pick damage continues to come through. That shield about to break, but still a lot of just restraint in going into this fight with the best advantages as the sticky bombs come by EHT, dropping the shield. It's so low, but I love this reservation as you do have the final early picks coming through. That's going to allow Susquehanna to make sure that they take advantage of this, but that's a minute off the clock already.
And EHT did find the openings that they needed after the fight devolved a little bit there, and it's going to be slight stagger onto the Baby Diva. Duplicate available now for EHT, so this next fight's going to be very scary for Garnet Valley moving forward. But Garnet Valley is coming up on a lot of key ultimates here. They're about to have a 5-pack. Blizzard not really in the best position right now. And that's going to be the defining factor here. What does this duplicate get? I think he probably would most likely go onto the Reinhardt, try and get double Reinhardt, double Shatter type of deal, but we'll see what EHT has to do here. A rotation coming in from Garnet Valley. They're taking a lot of time. Like, this is 2.5 minutes already that's left on the clock. 1.5 minutes already gone, and they've only had the single fight.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, I understand that you might want to invest. Ooh, but that Shatter's going to be invested up front, managing to just eliminate so many. The health values are low, but there is still a couple of key pickups. EHT manages to reduce those supports down to nothing, but Self-Destruct also going to be committed. This is honestly, I think, a best case scenario, but I really would have liked to see GVHS not commit as many ultimates into that engagement.
And EHT says there, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to duplicate one of the tanks. I'm duplicating one of the DPS, and that's exactly what they do. They take a McCree for themselves, are able to get a couple of kills with it as well. But you're right, this was a very expensive fight for Garnet Valley, all things considered. However, they are able to keep key ultimates. They keep their self-destruct. They also are going to get the Blizzard and the Sound Barrier, which they need. But a minute and 30 is left, Rich. They've only had 2 fights so far. This has been very, very slow-paced from Garnet Valley.
We talk about how methodical and strategic it needs to be as you've got that lead takedown onto Z to the Immortality Dealer. So with an 8 onto Emperor's Blizzard, this should be the defining factor for GVHS. You may have only had 3 fights, but those 3 fights, third time's the charm and guarantees that 37% is reached. And you have now a 2-0 map score for Garnet Valley.
And how do they win that third fight, Rich? It's a wall from the Pingu into Flashbang into a dead Reinhardt, which is how we saw them make their defense. That's how we see them take that offense. Works beautifully for them. And they are up 2-0, Rich, against the #1 seed.
Major props. Gotta say, evolution and development for these students is just constantly what we enjoy seeing, especially when you're going against the team that you mentioned at the very top of the broadcast is kind of placed on the pedestal as that #1. And now they're, shaking in their boots a little bit to say, all right, friends, we need to kind of reevaluate here because we're finding ourselves on match point now for Susquehanna. And honestly, even with this slower, methodical play that we saw, we commented on it, we were getting concerned because coordination amongst the team is critical to be successful in these engagements. But if you take it too slow, that can also be just as punishing. But here, as much as we want to say that it couldn't be punishing, Garnet Valley has proven us wrong and has definitely put Susquehanna in a very uncomfortable position.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it still was a little bit like shaky at the end there because if they had that really good pick onto the Reinhardt, which I think works, but it's still a little bit too slow for my liking, especially with the lead that they had in a lot of those fights. So I like to see them play a little bit more proactively, which they were doing on their defense. Like I think their defense was played immaculately well. So I think on the next step that we're going to, which I believe we don't know just yet, but it is still going to be Susquehanna's map pick, and I wonder what we do here because the Rush v Rush does not seem to be working out in their favor, which is weird because it did in the quarterfinals. In the quarterfinals, Rush v Rush was like their playground, right? They were so good at it, and it looks like we actually are going to be going into Watch Point Gibraltar as our third map. So this is good, I think, for them because, or for Susquehanna rather, I should say, because they're like, okay, we can't play the Rush v Rush, right? So we need to go to a map where Rush isn't as big of a deal. Pingu can't play Mei on this map. We can play a Winston composition, you know, double bubble, just maybe full out dive, something like that. And I think that is an advantage given over to Susquehanna because the Rush isn't in their favor, right?
Play to the strengths. Zeets has had some very nutty Winston play. So this is a map where I would 100% agree with you that it does seem to, so far, going into it, be a benefit for Susquehanna. And as we are entering into this map, we will have the opportunity of seeing Garnet Valley coming out on the defensive side for this time around with the attacking position from Susquehanna. And interesting to see the composition. I know we don't have exactly what the attacking team is going to be demonstrating, but we've got Luke on this 76, which is something that we have seen even in the Tier 1 play from the Dallas Fuel, which is still viable.
I mean, it definitely is viable here. Interesting that we're not seeing something like an Ashe, which is something that I think we see a lot more on this map specifically in like professional play, but it looks like it's just going to be soldier versus soldier here. Legs versus legs. Who's been, you know, going to leg day a little bit more than the other team? We'll have to see here between both these teams. And it looks like there's also a little bit of differentiation in terms of the tank play. It's going to be a Zarya instead of a D.Va here. So that means that it's going to be a little bit easier, I think, for Little Big Iron or for Luke rather, to get value on the Soldier 76 because there isn't a D.Va in their face all the time.
Absolutely, and as we are entering into this, we do want to also mention that there is a substitute coming in for Susquehanna. They do have Emperor out for this round for Ron that is going to be entering in for them to make some adjustments to see if they can maybe turn the tides here to try and compete against us, which is that squint in play. As you do now have, again, that 3 minutes on the time bank, still pushing this payload forward in a good position for Susquehanna to try and continue to get these picks that are essential for them to move forward.
And Luke was able to take out EHT in that back line. The flank not managing to work out. Tracer, a little bit of a scary position right here for Susquehanna. They're going to have to rotate up through this high ground and try and rotate around the cart. Because the cart, you don't want to be on the low ground shooting into the high ground. You know how much I love high ground, Rich, and that's always a good position to be. Here comes the Nano, though, onto Zeets.
And you can see now that Nano's going to try and get some value. You've got the Pingu with that duplicated Winston, so it's double gorilla action up front with the Primal Rage to start with Pingu, but you're not going to have Vjan getting in the action just as quickly, being taken down in this exchange. You now have Susquehanna getting very, very aggressive, but with Snowy's self-destruct, it might be able to slow the momentum here, not being able to get as much value. 2 minutes on the time bank, and this payload has reached its end at the top of that car wash position.
Snowy absolutely clutches that fight, but there's a nice one-click from EHT onto Mercy Main, by the way. Can it be resurrected? Cheese Fries is there, Pulse Bomb committed, not going to get it just yet.
A little overzealous there by EHT with the Pulse Bomb. I did like the fact that you took out the Ana, getting a little, you know, advanced with that play. If it would have stuck, it would have been stellar, but you're actually going to have the Tac Visor coming out from Susquehanna, getting some great value onto their counterpart, Luke. I can definitely tell you that the more refined and defined calves so far are on Little Big Ron for that leg day you talked about earlier.
I mean, that's usually what you like to see when you're a Soldier 76. You like to alpha the other hit scan on the enemy team, and this changing of bring Ron onto this map seems to be working out very well for Susquehanna here, and now they get to move forward into this stage of Gibraltar with 4 minutes left, so a pretty decent time bank for them. And this is usually a part of the map where you can win one fight and basically snowball your way onto third place. So we'll see if Susquehanna can do that. They can try and take control of the high ground, like this decision from Zeets, but knows they're outnumbered and just backs off.
And you can have Cheese Fries with that. Valkyrie just continuing to fuel, trying to recover here on the defensive position. You still actually have some picks coming up, though. Luke is really not finding the better end of this exchange between these 76 matchup. With a grab going to be tossed out now from Susquehanna, getting some great value to try and continue this press. 3 minutes and 10 seconds, but Snowy's still there to cause some contention.
See a Little Big Ron on the high ground, which is where Soldier 76 likes to be. Oh, the duel of the 76s. Ron is so low. Can they escape? They are able to do so by putting down that healing pad. HG takes out Cheese Fries. It's a big pick. A lot of healing is now missing from this team.
Yep, and EHT looks for a Pulse Bomb. Doesn't get as much value, but you're still... I mean, honestly, this map has really, really changed the way that Susquehanna has been playing, and it's really basically boosting all of their strengths as a composition.
And I think it's the compositional difference. Realistically here, Zeetz on this Winston has been doing a stellar job playing aggressively, but not overly aggressive on the knife's edge. And now, 4 minutes about going into third. This is a perfect time bank to work with here. Ron has been doing such a good job putting pressure onto everyone with the Soldier 76. Has the tac visor available, but duplicate from the Pengu might be needed.
Yeah, the Pingu was going in for the focusing beam, realized, all right, I'm a little low, so I'm just going to backpedal for a hot second and make my wings backpedal faster, because there's still a lot of time to work with those. Susquehanna is in a beautiful position to continue moving on. Tactical Pie is going to come out, getting a lot of damage onto that catwalk, attempting to try and get the counterpart. 29 HP, but you see the advancement. Luke says, no, not this time around. I'm going to jump down from on high. As you look for Cheese Fries, potentially going to stabilize here. Looks for the res as well. Valkyrie's actually going to be popped to sustain to try and hold this payload on the corner.
Oh, and there's the Graviton Surge actually committed there. They're trying to get these kills. The Valkyrie healing just doesn't seem like it's enough here, Rich.
No, the Pingu is, you can just see it fluttering back and forth, almost being eliminated. That's honestly the only individual that you have Cheese Fries able to keep up, and there is not enough healing to be given from that ultimate to sustain the rest of the team. Now, in the home stretch, 2 minutes and 50 seconds, you do get the double kill for the tank line up front from Susquehanna, managing to continue flailing with Squinted up front. That sub coming in big and bringing this Brigitte, the fight to the front line. The stun and crowd control continuing to shut down Zeetz, as it's going to be Vjan, correction, overwhelmed, picked off just under 2 meters. A lovely mech kill finally comes in for the first time in the finals, as you now have these seconds dwindle, and it just needs to be stability and focus fire from Susquehanna.
This is actually winnable now here if they can get a couple of kills, but they aren't able to do so. Potentially if they had gotten the pick on... Oh, Primal Rage though from Vjan is available, so the stall continues.
Yep, it's going to draw a great amount of time out. 1,000 HP is a lot to work with. You even have the supports looking to drop some damage onto the gorilla that is raging up front. The barrier buys a few more seconds, and at this point, even though it looks like it's going to be Susquehanna's point for completion, they are still at least reducing the time bank. It is not going to be that 2.5 minutes. They take off an extra 35 just for fun to make sure that they are not looking at such a monster of a time bank.
Hell of a stall, though, all things considered, from Garnet Valley. But, man, Susquehanna really had the momentum going forward through a lot of that map. Like, they had the one fight in second where they won and just went through, only took that one fight, didn't need any more. And then I think you're right where Ron has been absolutely stellar on the Soldier 76. The amount of pressure that they're putting onto not only Luke, but the rest of the team of Garnet Valley is just really turning the tides. And I think also the Brigitte choice is phenomenal also from Susquehanna. I really like the choice of Brigitte. I think Brigitte, even, you know, through all the nerfs that she's had, through all the changes that she's had, she's still a very good hero against dive. So I like the idea here of Squintin on that Brigitte. I think it realistically does a good job of negating a lot of what Garnet Valley wants to do with their dives.
I mean, it's something, yes, you don't see as often, but in the right hands and being able to structure a composition around it, it can really exceed like moments like that. And when you're facing against someone like Vjan who's looking for the dive, Snowy as well, if you can just continue to get that crowd control, because now you're not solely relying on, let's say, a DPS where you need the McCree for the flashbang. You no longer have that. You've got a lot of close encounter fights. The Brig still provides not only the stun, but a flail as well for keeping distance, and it really is helping out Susquehanna in these engagements.
And the Inspire, I think, is really good because a lot of these fights are happening in enclosed areas where Inspire does proc a pretty good amount of healing to the rest of the team. So I think for Susquehanna, they've had a really good decision going to this map. It seems to be working out for them so far. 2 minutes on their clock, and Garnet Valley's going to have to try and match it here. You have a disconnect, and we will be getting a pause. Garnet Valley's the one who's going to try. Garnet Valley's the one now trying to play Overwatch 2.
Yep.
Everybody's just like,
I mean, hey,
5v5, we gotta get ready. We gotta get ready for it.
Right? Just practicing. I mean, to be fair, it was just before that engagement happened. The Bionade was on its way. It lands for 2, but the shots were not yet fired. So we'll have that brief pause to allow a reconnect here. But, you know, again, with how Susquehanna going into this has been able to dominantly demonstrate their ability on this map. Now going to look to try and play that high ground position. I feel that they're going to be in a really, really great opportunity, especially when it comes to the payload maneuvering outside of that car wasp position, just surpassing that server doorway. That kind of positioning where you've got the catwalks, you've got the high ground position, you've got the doors to kind of work with. There's a lot of different angles that they can play that's going to be to their advantage, especially with that Brigitte who's looking for those, like you commented, close encounter spaces.
And I wonder as well how, Garnet Valley is going to be opting to try and take away the high ground, because I think that's the best way to try and deal with the Soldier 76 is you don't want a Soldier 76 just sitting on high ground, just continuously pumping out damage onto you, right? You want to pressure them as much as you can. And by pressure, I mean not necessarily just, kill, but more necessarily, you just need to make sure that they aren't in a position to just, again, continuously rain down that damage. And if you're, if the soldier's just continuously moving away because of the space being taken away, that means they're not shooting at you. And that means that you can start taking space, you can start shooting at them. And that's how I think you win a lot of these fights. So for Garnet Valley, I think the focus should be on trying to figure out a way to pressure out Ron, because if not, Ron is going to melt your team from the inside out.
Yeah, and that substitute has really held its own moving into this, as we do have that few more moments. It's actually going to be just a review of the format for those coming in here part way. Sometimes there's a little bit of a stragglers. You have your day jobs, your classroom, or your other workload that needs to be taken care of, as it did start originally. This is true. That is also true. They might be dual boxing right now, as you've got 21 teams in the regular season, 16, as we said, advanced into playoffs. We had the opportunity of casting the quarterfinals and presenting that if you'd want to find out how these teams have gotten here. But today we have the semifinals and finals all being best of 5. And we've found ourselves in this single elimination where Garnet Valley has put Susquehanna into an uncomfortable position where they have a 2-map victory. But on this Watchpoint Gibraltar map, they are playing a lot more cohesive. They have a lot more confidence going into this, and they're playing to a compositional strength that's allowing them to really shove back Garnet Valley. And the biggest thing here too is if you take this win, you have that mindset and that just honest overall powerful morale boost that can get you to keep going through this reverse sweep.
Yeah, a lot of momentum here that you can get. And as well, I think going into this map, we have to remember that Susquehanna is the #1 seed. Garnet Valley is the 5th seed. So a little bit of discrepancy with where these two teams came into the tournament. But we're back into game here. Garnet Valley wins that first fight, are able to start moving forward, even though they didn't have one of those members, but Cheese Fries back into this lineup. And seeing Susquehanna trying to contest here, they're actually pretty pushed back. This has been a lot of free space that Garnet Valley is taking.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little impressed, to be completely honest. It's really just being able to get them to this position that gives them a lot more opportunity that they can play some more dynamic angles here. Snowy goes up top, but does get picked up just in time for health value before the DMAC, and the Pingu comes in with the Echo play. And now Luke, as much as we talked about the Big Ron, I mean, honestly, it's Luke now saying, all right, I acknowledged you last round. We're not going to worry about it. I'm going to take advantage, and we're going to get this checkpoint with 5 minutes moving into the docking bay.
And that's going to be a takeout onto Knuckle Bunny as well. The Pingu having a really good series as well. I think we talked about their May play. Now moving into the Echo here, the projectile play has been phenomenal so far. And again, this is one of those parts of the map where it's very scary for the defensive teams because they can just get rolled. And with HT going down, that's going to be Susquehanna having to retreat. You're not able to aggress without their Tracer player, and this is just more time for Garnet Valley to take space, spam down onto the enemy team. You look at the ultimates coming in here for Garnet Valley. You have the dupe. They also have that Primal Rage. Oh, so close for ZC, doesn't get it.
Yep. And that was some great heads-up play. You are just going to see GVHS. Well, EHT coming out with some nice counterplay here, but the Pionade again landing. Knuckle Bunny got one initially and found a second with just this continuous momentum. GVHS not out of the fight just yet, but that Tactical Visor might be able to swing a little bit into their favor as they continue to push towards this doorway.
Yeah, with EHD going down, that's a lot of DPS lost for the team. Primal Rage, though, is committed. And here comes the Tac Visor from the other side.
And trying to counter back, seeing if there's any high ground position to be obtained. Self-destruct is dropped actually onto the loading dock. Truck got a recovery here. Shield up top onto the catwalk as VJan has to force out the Primal Rage here, attempting to try and get some harassment and dislodge Susquehanna on this defensive position. Meters continue to dwindle. The health values are low. A Pulse Bomb comes out with the Inspire as well, with the also assistance from the rally. Susquehanna is just desperately tossing in everything they can to keep this defense alive. And ultimately, it doesn't matter. You've got GPHS persevering through it all.
But do they have the damage to take out the Brigade here? They need to take out this Brig, and with the Nano, they should be able to do so. That should be the cleanup for Garnet Valley here. It took them a while, but they were able to finally tick that over. And Lucas actually started that fight with a Tac Visor and ended it with a Tac Visor. So a lot of value coming in from the Soldier 76 here for Garnet Valley High School. Now they are moving forward. They have a chance, actually, which is weird because we didn't think that they would, but they have a chance to have a stronger time bank than the one coming in from Susquehanna Township, which, let's be real, Susquehanna had a very good time bank with 2 minutes, and now with 4 minutes moving in for Garnet Valley, if they win one fight convincingly, they have a chance to beat that time bank.
Luke has been laser focused on this DPS line for Susquehanna, and it looks like we're actually going to have another pause here, potentially a disconnect coming through once again. The internet is definitely being quite a challenge for today. It's already one thing to feel that you're competing against an opponent, but now to also having the realm of internet connections being another adversary is never a comfortable feeling.
I mean, hey, sometimes technology just works, sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes there's issues. That's just how the cookie crumbles, so we will get this back in when we get the chance. But, I mean, again, I think you talked about it with Luke. It's interesting because Luke had some, issues on the defensive side when Ron was playing on the offense, and now it seems like the roles have reversed a little bit, where it's realistically Luke who's had much of the advantage and much of the space with the Soldier 76 play, and Ron hasn't been as, impactful as they were on their own attack. And again, we're talking about Garnet Valley came into this third point with 4 minutes. That's a lot of time. That's about as much as Susquehanna came in with. And to realistically, there's a lot of momentum when you make a push like that with 2 minutes left. If you're Susquehanna, but now if you're Garnet Valley, you're like, okay, well, we can beat their time bank. We have the possibility to do so as we go back into game here. Duplicate available for the Pingu. We'll see what they decide to go for, and they're going to go for the Winston, going into that backline, trying to get a kill.
Getting a quick generation on the ultimate. You've got the support eliminated, solely relying now on Squinton for Susquehanna, attempting to just keep this team alive. The Micro Rockets do get some advantage, but this momentum is still heavily in favor of GVHS, especially since the res has now come up by Cheesy Fries. The tactical visor by Little Big Ron in the backside is overwhelmed by VJan, constantly seeking out that DPS in the back line. The ultimate gains no value. 2 meters to go. We talked about the time bank, and this is an opportunity for a very hefty bank to go into this swap of sides, and you can see it at 3:09. That is just about 1 minute and 10 seconds more. And honestly, really impressive by Garnet Valley going into this map. Once again, that we thought was going to be more so heavily favored to Susquehanna.
That's also crushing, I think, for Susquehanna right there, where you have this really good offense and you do such a good job and play so well, and then Garnet Valley just comes back in and hits you with one left hook right to the chin, and Garnet Valley have a little bit more higher of a time bank than you are, about a minute's difference here. But Susquehanna, you got to hit the reset button. It's like, okay, we can do it again. We pushed extremely far with our 4-minute time bank. We can do the same thing on our offense here because they need that type of mentality going forward. This is match point, remember. This is it. If they lose this match, they are not going to be going further in this tournament. So a lot is on them right now, pressure-wise, being that number 1 seed, being on match point, being down 2-0. They got to get that reverse sweep, and it starts here.
Do or die, and the upset is near. GVHS, this would be a massive morale boost, because if they can take down this number 1 seed, and the only ones that remain are those underneath, so that could in some regards make them feel like they're on top of the world, but only time will tell, as 1 minute and 56 remains for Susquehanna to try and keep this payload moving and looking for a miraculous completion here, because we've seen some unbelievable pushes on this map with a short amount of time.
And we see HT going to be on that Widowmaker here, has the Mercy Pocket as well, so a lot of long-range damage here for Susquehanna. Garnet Valley has to be extremely careful because they don't have the range to deal with the Widowmaker just yet. Once, Susquehanna pushes forward and starts fighting onto this plat area, possibly the Winston Demon can go into the backline, but Zeetz gets way too over-aggressive and ends up going down. Good target selection and target focus coming in from Garnet Valley. And now they don't have a Winston, so you can't take space without a Winston. You have to wait.
Yeah, you have to wait, and the biggest thing was, too, is Knuckle Bunny did not have the best of sightlines because of how far Zeetz went just around that catwalk corner. Those boxes blocked the sightline, so it was an easy pickup. So now this is just 1 minute and 10 seconds remaining. You at least get the DMEC, but there's still a tall order ahead here for GVHS to hold on the defensive side, and Susquehanna needs to try and push on.
EHT has switched over to the Tracer as well. And here comes the dive in from Degen. When Nano available with it, are they going to be able to secure anything? They are creating so much space. And there's the takedown onto the Mercy. Can they get the Soldier 76?
Looking for the chase. The sleep dart comes through. Nice engagement to try and slow this as the payload looks to continue pushing a little bit, but it's still contested here, Kenobi.
It is, and you see Synthix is going in, trying to take control of this part. Degen is actually able to get the kill onto Knuckle Bunny. That means the Ana isn't here. We're only on solo Mercy heals. If you're Susquehanna, you're still moving the car forward, which is good, but with 30 seconds left, this is all you have. This is the last fight here. Luke has the tac visor ready and available, and oh, they scouted out where EHT is.
Oh, the Pingu goes down. This open space, it's going to be a great opportunity for a recovery here. You've got the little Big Bron getting that Tactical Visor active with Luke attempting to maintain the high ground. You do see a beautiful counterplay with the Nano as well from Knuckle Bunny. Self-destruct overhead, attempting to slow the momentum, but it won't be able to really change any trajectory for Susquehanna. They do have the advantage to press this payload forward into the overtime, but they've lost their healers. You are absolutely hyper-focused on that as much as I was with the overtime looking to dwindle. Is there enough sustain from Susquehanna to move to this checkpoint? 0.60 meters to go. The self-destruct to zone. You have Snowy on the wrecking ball, continuing to play close to contest. Luke goes down. The supports have been eviscerated. No longer in this fight as this payload continues to stay steady. The checkpoint has reached, but you cannot see Susquehanna leave this position.
A gutsy fight from Susquehanna, and they're able to move forward and start getting more percentage on their, or more area on their engage here on their offense, because this is, again, one of the most snowbally areas in this map, and just one fight win, and they can take this to the second, and if you get a second capture, that's just huge for your momentum.
But Zeets gets over-aggressive once again, and the Pingu takes advantage. The duplicate now going to come out onto the Diva, looking to try and get that self-destruct quickly to just toss it onto the payload to zone them away. But everyone else manages to get the early takedown onto the supports. There's no one there to keep them alive. The overtime's going to dwindle. That's it, as the payload ceases at 50.63 meters. That is the golden box that needs to be reached for GVHS to find themselves in the grand final slot.
Win conditions set here, but hey, with 2 minutes and taking that first point, that's pretty decent from Susquehanna. They're getting as far as they did with that time bank, but Garnet Valley have 3 minutes to work with here, Rich. That is a significant amount of time, especially depending on how quickly these first 2 points go, because if we remember to their first offense, they were running through these first couple of points, right? They got into third with 4 minutes, so it's doable. It is holdable for Susquehanna Township here, but Garnet Valley, if they continue to play the way that they've been playing, this very coordinated, proactive style, punishing Zeets whenever Zeets gets a little bit too over-aggressive, which I think is why they've chosen specifically the Echo on this map, because Echo punishes over-aggressiveness, because if you get in too deep, you're going to get hit with Focusing Beam, and if you're under 50%, you get absolutely blown up, and Zeets actually is going to be going on to the Hammond, so offering a little bit more survivability against the Echo here.
I like that change-up, because Zeets is at least acknowledging that it's not working going into the Echo. Though, this is the challenge, is that if Pingu comes out on something different, and this is the game of chess right now, Kenobi, that swap might just be the benefit that GVHS needs to push this.
Definitely, and we see Luke going on to this high ground away from the rest of the team. Just going to try and pump out some damage. Zeets on the Hammond in the backline. They don't know. Now they know. They definitely know that there's a Hammond here along with EHT. They're trying to get some kills, but there's a nice sleep onto Zeets, so the Hammond isn't going to be able to roll around in that backline, but Cheesy Fries is down. That's a lot of healing this.
Yeah, the little Big Ron in that chaotic engagement with a nice flank coming out from EHT and Zeets was still able to take the advantage of it. 2 minutes and 30 seconds. This is a really, really nice coordinated play here from Susquehanna that's giving them a lot of value to hold on this initial defense.
Zeets does end up going down, which is big because I don't think it's in a position where it can be rezzed either. So this is a little bit of time where there is a slight advantage for Garnet Valley because their spawns are so much closer, but they don't realistically have a way to force Ron off of this high ground now, but now they can start moving forward with their own Soldier 76, and you can see already Garnet or Susquehanna has to retreat here. 2 minutes is all that's left. Luke gets taken down. That's a big pick.
Yeah, little big run coming in big, has that tactical visor now. Zeet's going to take a nap for the time being and just left in dreamland until they can get into this engagement with 1 minute and 55 seconds. You do have the drawback. You've got Zeet's not wanting to play super aggressive just yet until they go finally for the supports, but gets hit by the Bionade, and the focusing beam still gains value despite that changeup from the Winston.
Ooh.
And Luke comes in big with the Helix Rocket, getting a quick cleanup onto the little big Ron.
Oh, and he's going to go around the flank here. No sleep dart available for the Ana.
Now gonna try and press the attack down below, attempting to isolate. You've got GVHS now with the res as well, and a VJan to recover to most likely just reach this checkpoint uncontested, Kenobi.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be any stall tactics unless Zeetz tries to get onto this point right now, but doesn't look like it's going to be able to do so. And 1 minute is all that is left. This is 1, maybe 2 fights, depending on how long these fights go. Ron has the tac visor here for this next fight available to them, but not much else for Susquehanna Township. Whereas you look at Garnet Valley, they're going to have the Nano. They have a Primal Rage as well. And Knuckle Bunny's down. That's huge.
Squinton is the only support remaining, and the double Bionade lands onto EHT and Zeetz in the back, looking for the engagement with that minefield, looking to drop. Zeetz go down, 2 of 6, eliminated, and you've got the Pingu coming in now with the Diva. Double Diva, self-destruct's going to be all around this payload, continuing to force back with 40 seconds. That golden box continues to approach. The push down below is necessary with a little big run, and the tactical visor getting the boost does go down by the Pingu, who is removed from that Diva now. The golden box, as you can see, right there in line of sight. No one shall be here from Susquehanna. You have the #1 seed being eliminated in the playoffs as their hopes and dreams fall shy. Snowy with a self-destruct to put the nail in the coffin with the Tracer play, hoping and dreaming for contention. This will be GVHS persevering over the #1 as the 4th seed to bring themselves into a grand finals position.
Yeah, it's just a matter of time before they take out these stragglers. Tactical visors just to finish off everything, and it's going to be Garnet Valley taking down the 1st seed and moving on to the grand finals as the 5th seed. Congratulations to Garnet Valley.
Big plays, a lot of level ups, and some proud moments for this team to surpass the team that they lost to earlier in the season. They've definitely watched some tape, they've reevaluated their strats, and have definitely grown. And we cannot wait to see them in this grand finals, which again, we will be able to see that next semifinals match in a short while to see who they will be facing off against. But in this moment right now, we so far find ourselves with a 3 Overwatch to start, Kenobi.
I mean, the trend continues. Hopefully, we still have 2 more matches left between the grand finals and another semifinal. So hopefully we'll get a chance to see a little bit more than just 3 Overwatch. But man, Garnet Valley, I think from the get-go just came out swinging. They had a little bit of time to warm up on that first map of Lijiang, but once they got to that second map, once they got to Blizzard World, once they got here to Gibraltar, it was just a complete dominating performance, I'd say, from them. They had such great understanding of how to play against anything that Susquehanna Township Valley, or that I screwed that up. Susquehanna Township High School had to bring to them. And unfortunately, the #1 seed will be going out of the tournament. They had a good run, but Garnet Valley is going to be the one taking them to the grand finals.
And we find ourselves seeing our second semifinal match in just a short while. We will be heading to a brief break as we will see you on the other side of it, where we will continue with Mannheim Township versus Chambersburg. So you're not going to want to go anywhere to see who we have this amazing GVHS school playing against shortly.
tomorrow makers. They define success. They innovate their industries with technical know-how and vision, and stories only they can tell. Pennsylvania College of Technology is committing $1.25 million in existing scholarships and $250,000 in new scholarships for fall starts. This is your time. Share your story and kickstart your journey. Learn more and apply at pct.edu/2021.
The 2021 PIEA State Championships are brought to you by Pennsylvania College of Technology, where the future is made by hand. Learn more at pct.edu. Sheets. Order like a pro on the Sheets app. Sheets. Run and done. ViewSonic Elite Gaming Monitors. Don't just play, play to win. And by HyperX. We're all gamers. And now we'll be able to hear a brief few words that are both powerful and inspiring from the PIEA Board of Directors Bill Thomas, who will discuss the importance of esports in the academic environment.
My name is Bill Thomas, and I'm on the Board of Directors of the Pennsylvania Interscholastic Esports Association. We are one of the only regulatory governing bodies at the high school level solely focused on esports. It's vital for our high schools specifically and our school districts to have something that they can lean on that's credible, that has a regulated component to it as they start to look at programs, the esports programs in their schools. And the one thing that the PIEA brings to the table and fills a void is this governance that is kind of missing in the scholastic space in the high school competitions. So we felt it very necessary to bring to it very similar to what you see in traditional sports, where you have a state association that oversees eligibility, oversees academic standards, oversees safety, player safety, school safety, all of those elements. The other part of that a regulated governing body does is really provides a true pathway to a recognized and official state championship. And we know from talking to students across the Commonwealth, talking to teachers and administrators, that building that rivalry that currently exists in local communities between high schools is something that esports players want. They want to be able to compete for a banner they can hang in their gym. They want to compete for that state championship. And that's another reason why we believe the regulatory component is so important.
Some amazing and stellar words for all those involved in this education as we take a look now at the Sheets bracket as we have Garnet Valley moving on to the grand finals here, Kenobi, with now waiting to see who is going to be their adversary, Manheim Township or Chambersburg Area High School. And what a match to behold.
Yeah, what a match. I mean, we both picked Manheim as our people to win as our team to win the entire tournament, and we've already had some upsets. Garnet Valley, the 5th seed, beating Susquehanna, just a massively incredibly proactive and efficient performance coming in from Garnet Valley High School, deserving of that 3-0. As you can see a little bit of a highlights here, there were some good moments from Susquehanna, but just not enough of them to take Garnet Valley all the way to a reverse sweep and try and get that map 5.
I mean, it's honestly a great feat to kind of have a little bit of that underdog story. I mean, you're talking about 5th seed. Again, it might not be, the 16th or the 8th seed, but still, you're looking at a seed that is further back than the top 2, which is always something really exciting to see how a team can level up. They can come together, their coaching staff, their coordination between one another, and just constantly growing as a high school, which again, like we just had from that interview. I mean, honestly, the board of directors, Bill Thomas, saying how critical and important this is to the academic environment is really showing for these high school students as they fight for that opportunity to get this scholarship money for them to continue growing in their futures.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to see a lot of these high school teams play this well, right? Like, let's be real here. These have been some very good matches of Overwatch that we've seen not only today, but last week as well. And I think it's great to see high school kind of emerging and playing this well.
I mean, they're also just, let's be honest, getting some great exposure as well. You're going to get a quick view of my setup presently. We have to give a major shout out to ViewSonic. Happy to have them as one of our partners to not only provide some amazing tech for us, but these students as well moving through this PIEA championships. In addition to the winning schools receiving ViewSonic monitors, we are truly lucky to be calling, you know, all the action this week on them. The XG270Q Elite. These monitors are absolutely massive. As you can tell, it's almost falling off my desk. 27-inch display, an insane resolution to ensure both smooth and uninterrupted gameplay, and even the fastest scenarios where, I mean, it's been a huge and honest pleasure and a dream to be casting off of this ViewSonic product.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. It's been fantastic having ViewSonic here as a partner, helping with that onboarding, like you mentioned. And it's always great to see people supporting high school esports in general. And as you can see, we have our next match here, Mannheim Township versus Chambersburg Area High School. Like we said, Manship Township, that's the team that me and Rich have winning the entire thing. But again, upsets have happened literally just the game before this, so anything can happen here. I definitely don't have, you know, as much confidence as before because the number one seed's out of this tournament, so anyone can win.
That would be the kicker, to see a so far golden team lose a map and potentially be knocked out in the semifinals. But I can tell you that their hopes are high, and I mean we've even been tweeted at on Twitter about their, you know, confidence, hearing from us that we have selected them in the HyperX predictions. So they're also feeling really confident to know that we vouched for their names, and we'll see if they, you know, come out today with that same level of confidence that we've put in them to try and compete against Chambersburg Area High School.
And what I really like about Mannheim specifically is that I think Citrus Fruit has an incredible Ana. And we saw like what Anas could do in our previous series where like we had a lot of really good anti-nades, but there's something about Mannheim where anti-nades win them fights and it happens consistently. Citrus Fruit just manages to find these areas where anti-nades just hit, where I never even thought as a color caster in Overwatch that they could hit. So I think all things considered, that Ana play, whenever I see it come out for Mannheim, I'm going to be very worried for Chambersburg. I'm going to be looking out for Chambersburg. You can already see Citrus Fruit on that Ana. It is the pocket pick for this team. They're even bringing out a Pharah. I think, are they actually going to be bringing out a Pharah without a Mercy? So no Mercy pocket for this Pharah. And they're just like, Citrus Fruit can heal it. No matter, it's fine.
Confidence here as we enter in onto Gardens of Lijiang Tower. There it is, already out the gate. Citrus Fruit landing on a massive early advantage, but even with that land from Citrus Fruit, there is not enough follow-up, and you just have Widow only being left alone to be picked off.
Yeah, if they're going to be able to win these fights, they have to follow up on those anti-nades, and that's something they did extremely well yesterday, because if they don't follow up like right after, it's going to be so difficult for them to win because there's so much sustainability coming in from Chambersburg Area's team. But they do have the ability to follow up. You know, they have a pharmacy in the sky, finally giving Widow only the ability to have a pocket, which is going to be very important. But Citrus Fruit's coming up onto that Nano. Most likely been giving it either to the Pharah or to the Reinhardt just to move the Reinhardt in and create space.
Quick focus onto that teleporter. There is some removal of the turret, but
nice.
No, there's a rotation. The focus, the attention to detail of knowing that once that turret was down, and also the teleporter, it had to be the Pharah left alone and easily exploited. Widow only now attempting to get back into this to make it a 6 versus 6, but the amplification matrix is here to get that extra damage and funneling Siberius' damage and just continuing to have bird's eye onto the Pharah. Does get taken down though by our Santana with some assist. And if you now don't have the shatter either, Rocket Barrage reigns. Widow only coming out on the projectile champion to switch this back at the plus 50%.
And that was super clutch from our Santana there, following around the Pharah, knowing that Siberius is trying to get those flanks with the flashbang, but this time there is some help for Widow only in the form of their own McCree player, and now Chambersburg have to kind of reset a little bit. They don't have control of this point. It's a little bit harder to get Symmetras onto point directly, but with Photon Barrier makes it a little bit easier because they can negate a lot of the damage incoming from Mannheim Township, either from the Pharah or from the McCree or any of these heroes.
Dividing it most likely down towards the center position. Bionate from Citrus Fruit does get loud, but doesn't find Pay Dirt this time around. You do have now the Photon Barrier coming out, but is eliminated in that exchange. Still an even 5-for-5, as you do have Aiden being eliminated on the front position. Both tanks have to play very careful here for that attack position of trying to switch it back. Does get the value. Citrus Fruit tosses out that nano to maybe recover from this. Squidder will also get bioed, has to play super careful, and this is just such a scrappy skirmish on this point right now.
Ooh, there's the barrage though, and Widow only takes out 3, but the Symmetra is still alive through all this. Same with the McCree, and Chambersburg are able to win the fight. Very expensive fight, Rich, from both of these teams though. Grabs were used from both sides. Sound Barrier came out from Chambersburg area. They're luckily able to keep their amplification matrix where we are at right now, about 75% and ticking for Chambersburg. This is last fight territory right now. Widow only switching over to the Junkrat, offering a ton of spam damage into this composition.
And you've got now Widow only with this Junkrat, like you said, spamming as much damage as possible, but you already have Chambersburg taking down 2. This desperate play is going to have to be from only 4 with just the 10% remaining. With the Cree, oh no, and you've lost the support as well. You see just Citrus Fruit. A Shatter might be able to open this up just slightly, but the Immortality Field and the Amplification Matrix going to come out. Onyx Eye up front with the Baptiste getting a lot of value for this Chambersburg defensive hold. You also have the regroup coming through. The staggers are going to be there. Numbers just dwindle consistently because Mannheim never really had the opportunity to fully group to contest at the end of this. The overtime should just dwindle, and Chambersburg would be easily able to take this first round.
Yeah, there's the boop onto the Zari, but it's not going to matter at all. Just a lonely Reinhardt and Hammond on this point. They're going to get melted by the Symmetra Beam and by the McCree, and that will end it here. Chambersburg going to take map 1 here of Lijiang Tower.
I mean, really, really well done. I mean, the fact that you got that kind of an early lead with that Zarya play, a double kill, making it a 6 versus 4 when there's roughly about like 10 to 15 seconds left, that's a great position to be in. You are so confident knowing that you are not going to allow that team to have a regroup of 6, and they're in such a difficult position to say, do or die, we've got to dive in on this to try and keep it into overtime.
Definitely agree with you there, and we're going into our second stage of Lijiang Tower Night Market, so we're basically seeing what we saw in our last series exactly. Potentially, though, maybe a stage 3 coming in from these two teams. As we see, again, this is going to be all about the Symmetras, all about that first fight. That first fight basically sets the tone of the rest of the map. We'll see who gets onto the point, who gets their Symmetra set up, and who wins, because after that, it's very hard to recontest against Symmetra comps on this map.
It's like deja vu from the first series of the day, and we will see who manages to take it first this time around. Widow only gets a nice pickup onto the back line, able to remove the Symmetra before getting any further damage onto the tank line, nor having that beam charge up fast enough. Now repositioned in the back. You do have the Reinhardt going for the charge from Aiden, attempting to try and zone away, but there's a nice patient play here from Chambersburg, looking for the regroup. You have the Lucio extending out with Siberius, playing very aggressive with the flashbang, managing to get the stun, but no follow-through onto it as a double boop comes out by Frogger, and that is going to be a critical pickup here for Mannheim to take this point.
Frogger absolutely comes in clutch. Boops the Baptiste, not only which removes basically all of your healing in this composition from Chambersburg, but you also boop the Reinhardt, and at that point the fight's already over. Mannheim now have full control of this point. Rip tires available. All the Symmetra turrets are set up, so it's going to be very difficult for Chambersburg to recontest this. And with 2 members going down already, no ultimates were used for this, Rich. That's worst case scenario for Chambersburg here. Huge advantage out the gate. Mannheim saying, we've got our focus on the supports and you are not pushing onto this. And that's going to be some easy percentage gain, making them feel so comfortable. Yeah, already getting almost at that 50% mark by the time this next fight starts. And again, look at all the ultimates for Mannheim in this next fight. They have such an ultimate economy advantage here that Chambersburg really has to make something happen with just mechanical play. Next eye with that amplification matrix could create some space to move them.
turret's getting a nice slow on entry, but a Riptide from Widow Only gets a triple. This just reminds me of the highlight we had weeks ago where Widow Only on this map specifically of Night Market thrives in the chaos.
And again, it's been a fight where they used no ultimates, another fight where they used no ultimates, and a fight where they used one ultimate. So they are now in full, again, still in full control of this map. Ultimate economy looking extremely good for them, but Chambersburg's coming back in with all 6, and they have to use them in this fight because it's do or die with 80% for damage.
A lot of damage being pumped out. Shatter comes through, looking for the opportunity to collapse onto it. Siberius is the one that gets picked up at the grab. This is a particle effect for the ages, with Victory Rose taking advantage of the counterpart and Citrus Fruit removing Siberius. That Deadeye is not going to get any value. The sound barrier will not keep the team alive, and as the seconds dwindle, the percentage climbs, and that's now an even 1-for-1 round where Mannheim is still looking to keep their golden streak of never dropping a map.
That might have been a perfect map of Night Market. I don't know if anyone, maybe one person died from Mannheim, but there was definitely not a lot of dying going on from Mannheim Township's high school's composition there. Almost a perfect, I would say, Night Market played coming out from them. And now we go to our deciding map 3 control center here on Lijiang Tower. Both teams sticking towards the same types of compositions here. I wonder if these Symmetras will swap to anything else, or if they're going to stick on Symmetras just for that turret and then swap onto something, or just for that teleporter rather, and then swap onto something like a McCree or a Reaper. As we can see, again, no real differences between both these compositions besides the fact that it is going to be that Junkrat here for Widow Only. So again, a lot of spam for this composition that Chambersburg has to do.
Yeah, Chambersburg really needs to pay attention to this too, because Widow Only will be a deciding factor on this middle high ground to just completely eliminate. And there's a pickup onto Onyx Eye in the back, looking to just constantly get rid of the supports. They're going to pedal to the metal and not waver away from this engagement, easily picking up this first point as that concussion mine continues to lay waste to the frontline shields.
I mean, the other thing that Junkrat does is create so much disruption, and also on top of that has the shield pressure advantage. So Mannheim has an advantage whenever it comes to the shield war and can create space just by the virtue of having more shields and putting pressure onto Chambersburg. Mannheim now has control of this point. No ultimates just yet, but it's going to be so hard for Chambersburg to get in here with the Symmetra now set up with their turrets.
Wow, looking to keep getting that high energy, though, with the Junkrat. That's the one benefit, that Zarya becomes a very high DPS individual, but when Widow Only takes down that Symmetra... Oh, and a fire strike for a triple kill through the amplification matrix of ages! That is a very, very quick shutdown.
Not every day you see a triple amplification matrix fire strike, but today is the day where you'll see it in Mannheim again. Once they have control, they never seem to let go of it. And you see Widow Only on the flank here with the Junkrat Riptire. Does Chambersburg know?
Slow, patient play. They don't know exactly where it is. They look to peek the corner, and the Riptire has to be instantly forced because the flashbang comes through. And so it might have only gotten one, but it's a critical takedown for them to sustain this front position as Frogger tosses out that sound barrier along with the immortality field from Citrus.
What a bait there as well from Widow Only, just waiting patiently in that area, holding that Riptire for so long. Frogger gets a little bit too aggressive, and this might be an option where Chambersburg can go in, but they lose their McCree, and they can't go in until they have a full 6-man team with this roster. 75% ticking up for Mannheim. This is last fight territory here for Chambersburg. They need to win this fight, and Widow Only is already almost at another Riptire. We'll have it at this next fight, most likely.
Amplification matrix on the middle high ground for Chambersburg as a Shatter comes out up front, not getting nearly as much value as you do at the Photon Barrier. A side angle from Siberius looking for a pick as a counter Riptire comes through with a mayhem as well. Chambersburg finally has the numbers advantage to switch this back with a great stellar pickup on the back line, and that's Chambersburg managing to switch this over as long as Widow Only can... What? Widow Only sustains, and you've got Mannheim coming in big, the 1-for-1 in the end. Mannheim does not lose a map yet. The ghost of lost maps past is still going to be held at bay for Mannheim.
The 1v1 between the Junkrat and McCree at the very end. McCree didn't have any cooldowns, unfortunately. They used all their cooldowns to take out that Zarya. Then at that point, it's just Widow Only has to hit one mine, and that's going to be the map, and that's going to be it. A map win for Mannheim in a very close one. It looked a little bit scary on Gardens, but after that Night Market and after that Control Center, Mannheim is looking like a team that has not lost a single map just yet.
Yep. You can honestly tell that after that first map, they're probably sitting back in their chairs like, okay, we lost a round. We're not losing the map. Let's pull it together, friends, because we're not going to drop it. That's their goal. It's not winning. It's their goal of we're not going to lose the map, because that ultimately means that they're going to win. So that's
we want
the fuel.
We want the golden stage if we're Mannheim. We want the golden stage if we're Mannheim. And they look like, I mean, again, they looked a little bit shaky on Garden, on Gardens. That's the right map. I got it right. On Gardens, but when it came to like a point where they have control with the symmetric composition, they never let it go. And they were playing so, I think cheeky with a lot of their ultimates as well, like, using that matrix to get a fire strike, and just their ultimate rotation was so crisp and clean that they never really overcommitted in any fights when they didn't need to. And that meant that even when, Chambersburg is coming in with 6 ultimates, Mannheim still have 4, and 4 versus 6 is not a terribly awful ultimate economy position to be in.
4 is definitely not better than 6 or greater than it. I mean, we can at least tell you that much from our math history. I mean, all the way back from high school math. So
I think I can agree with that.
Right. I'm pretty sure we're good with that. But I mean, seriously, cheeky is honestly a great way to describe it. Like, even just those little, unique plays coming out from Mannheim with Widow only, just playing that side angle, not being in traditional positioning, forcing out that reposition with the McCree play. And again, even though you only get the 1, you put yourself in an uncomfortable position, it's still an early advantage. And it's really going to look moving forward that Mannheim has to continue to play that way, because if you can put your opponent into uncomfortable, not stable, grounded positions, how are you going to recover from that? It's a very unknown realm to be in.
Definitely. And Blizzard World, a very known realm to us. I think me and you have played probably every game that's in this in this little world of ours. You a little bit more because you're older.
Yes. Yeah. Let's not talk about how much older. I'm glad that you said that. That makes me feel better. That does make me feel better that you said a little bit older. So we'll digress back as we're going to take a look here, entering onto Blizzard World. Again, the hybrid map that has been selected by Chambersburg since they did lose the control map. Mannheim opting to go in onto this as the defensive position first to see if they can hold, as we're now entering in onto this map to see what the composition looks like for this defensive side.
Widow only gonna be on the Doomfist on the defensive end, which is interesting because Doomfist isn't a hero that I usually think about that's synonymous with Blizzard World. However, I do think about it synonymously with Widow only, because Widow only did show some Doomfist play last week, and it was very good. And on the defensive end here, for Chambersburg, they have to be on the offensive end very careful about where that Doomfist is going to be coming from, because on the defensive end, you have a lot of options in terms of high ground to jump off from, potentially get a pick and surprise the attacking team. Whereas on the offensive side, your head has just got to be on a swivel, right? You got to know where this Doomfist is coming from.
Not only on a swivel, but the synergy between Widow only and our Sinatra on this defensive position is so clean. And look at this rotation. You find the early advantage, and Mannheim takes full aggression against their attackers.
And Rich, look at Widow only's ultimate charge right now. That was off of one seismic slam and one uppercut. Hits every single member. Chambersburg, I mean, the Doomfist was also on the other side of the map. Let's remember that, like, when they were engaging, and Widow only comes in from on high, takes them all out. Immortality field doesn't matter when you're uppercutted into the air away from its healing area. And Widow only already at 80%, will probably get Meteor Strike in this next fight, and there's no way Chambersburg. There's no way they've tracked it. It's just impossible for them to think that a Meteor Strike is available right now.
It's unbelievable how fast. I mean, I'm just mesmerized how well Widow only can play this Doomfist on this map. They acknowledge the positioning this time, does have to force back a little bit here. Widow recovers with the support as an Earth Shatter comes out on front by 8. Immortality field tossed out in addition as Widow only gains the execution onto 2. Now has the Meteor Strike, going to carry it over into the next fight, and this is where the ultimates start to rotate.
I mean, even when they know where Widow only is coming, they find Widow only at the start. They force them out of that high ground. Even when they do that and they play it as well as they can, Widow only still comes in at the very end, is able to get a couple of kills, and it has just been the Widow-only show so far on this defense. 2 minutes is all that is left now for Chambersburg. They're coming in on some key ultimates, and Matrix is going to be available to them. They have a Shatter to work with. Blizzard's going to be incredibly impactful here, but you look at Mannheim, again, their ultimate economy is in a very good position where even if this fight happens with all ultimates used, it's still relatively equal.
A very aggressive Meteor Strike coming in, looking for a flank. Actually goes up immediately to the high ground, looking to try and go over the architecture here. Slow, methodical play, looking for the re-entry, as they're just going to wait until the engagement opens. You do still have Mr. Monopoly with the Mei attempting to get to the Blizzard, which is a win-conditioned ultimate. Has it now online, especially with the Amplification Matrix, as Siberius goes for the Deadeye around the corner, but the Amplification Matrix boosts Aiden's pickup onto the support line, only leaving Onyx Eye with a Shatter from Squidder, not getting nearly as much value. Sound Barrier from Frogger to just sustain. And you have a lot of ultimates, honestly, committed here by Mannheim going into that last, well, potentially last fight with a minute to go now for Chambersburg.
But a lot were committed by Chambersburg, too. I mean, they did use Amp Matrix, they use Shatter, so 3 ultimates realistically used for Chambersburg here. But they keep a lot of key ones. They keep that Graviton Surge. They're keeping their own Sound Barrier and a Mei Blizzard. Those are key, high-impactful ultimates. The realistic thing that they need to do here is just not get taken out by Widow only. If they just play this correctly, move forward slowly, don't let the Doomfist wreak havoc in their backline, they will win this next fight off the basis of their ultimate economy.
I mean, if they can get a grab with at least 3, leading in with the Blizzard, but the flanking Blizzard's actually going to come out. The grab actually pulls them towards the outskirts, but they're still in it. And you have the 3 key ultimates being able to change the momentum in the end of it. 20 seconds remain as the cleanup comes through. That will be a point capture here to transition into the payload phase.
And I really like the rotation from Mr. Monopoly there, specifically not going with the rest of their team, going on the flank with their Mei ultimate, because they know the only thing that can really take them out is the Doomfist, and the Doomfist is going to try and go for the most members possible with their Seismic Slam and Uppercut. So they go around the backside, and they get a free Mei Blizzard into a Graviton Surge, and that's a win for Chambersburg. Now they're moving forward 2.5 minutes in their time bank, and Matrix available here for Citrus Tree, but a huge Shatter!
5-player Shatter on that high ground, the bridgeway of doom. You will see Mannheim have to bail out of this, but you know, you still have some aggression by Widow only up top, and with Citrus Fruit getting a takedown onto the McCree, there's no ability to now get the crowd control onto Widow only, dropping down below to recover and actually holding on here where this Pylon Cafe is.
Follow just unfortunately wasn't there off of that 5-man Shatter from Squidder. And now this is going to be a little bit of a tricky situation here because the card hasn't moved too much, Rich. Like, realistically, that fight happened. The card hadn't been moving all that much, and Chambersburg have to go on a little bit of a retreat here. And Matrix is available for both sides, but the biggest difference is that Frogger's going to have that Sound Barrier. I don't think that there's a possibility that Chambersburg gets this unless the fight goes extremely long. Then the Sound Barrier can be there.
Amp Matrix from both sides. Who will get the better exchange? You do have Chambersburg leading the charge, but there is a decline. Doesn't matter how many times you're going to swipe that credit card, it's going to constantly say declined. You've got a cleanup now from Mannheim as it's just over 1 minute with the team kill bell ringing.
1 minute left. I really like what Aiden did there on the flank here. Just went past the Amplification Matrix and went for everything with a huge Shatter. Clutches it out for their team. Mannheim looking at a 1 minute time bank coming in from Chambersburg. You get 1, maybe 2 fights, depending on how long they last here. Blizzard is available. Know how good they've been with the Blizzard so far. Graviton Surge close to. They can combo along with it, but they're just going to throw it out.
Yep, nice wall as well to basically prevent any sort of retreat. You still have Victory Rose, though, managing to hold on and get that takedown onto Mr. Monopoly after the Blizzard comes through. Immortality Field has to be tossed out to sustain here for Chambersburg, pressing forward as Widow only now comes in. Doesn't manage to synergize the Space Jam combination, and the Sound Barrier should allow Chambersburg to hold on through this. But if Widow only is continued to be left unchecked, the shield is going to continue to develop and really just be able to continue wreaking havoc on the opposing side. It's a back and forth exchange, but Chambersburg still prevails.
And with the kill on the R Santana, no one's going to be here to be able to touch the card. I think it's going to be a cap for Chambersburg here at the very death of it. They will get it almost in overtime. 1 minute and 30 seconds is now added onto their time bank. Lau will probably go switch back up to the Zarya here. Don't expect that to stick at all. Yep, just was trying to get back from the bad spawn, and now going back to that Zarya. Unfortunate that they had to give up the charge for the Graviton Surge that they might have accrued, but it wasn't too much. And Mannheim, again, both Vapid Mortality Fields available here. We'll see who comes out first with their own, and there it goes from Mannheim.
And you have Widow only playing that side position, does get caught out by the McCree play, but as the McCree from Siberius presses forward to take down Widow only, there is some huge repercussions by that 2 hit scans.
They definitely are, and 50 seconds is all that Chambersburg has left here. They do have the Amplification Matrix advantage, though, this time, so they can take a lot of space away from Mannheim just by the virtue of that amplified damage, and there it goes.
And you see actually a little bit too far of a pressed position. The Fire Strike doesn't get as much boosted damage because it was just past it. You still have the Deadeye claiming 1 on a victory rose, so they are going to go down. As you are Santana picking off the Junkrat up top with a sound barrier to feel absolutely comfortable. Gets another takedown onto Ryan with the utility from the Lucio and Widow only basically clean up together.
Now it's just die on cart here for Chambersburg area, and I don't even know if they'll get a recontest. It has to be desperate swaps, 2 stall heroes here. Tracer coming in, Winston, Sombra, everything that they need to just get onto point as quickly as possible. With only 3 seconds left, are they even going to be able to do so? Someone got on.
There is an overtime proc, so there is some contention. You do have the follow-through, but there is a lot of ultimates about to stack up in favor of Mannheim. You've got the Meteor Strike and also Citrus Fruits, Amplification Matrix, 1 already taken down. They are just going to have a field day on this payload cart since ultimates were all reset outside of Nortnite with the Lucio because of those last-minute changes and staggers, so that will be an overtime running its course, as you do have that box of victory in place now for Mannheim on the side swap.
Score 0-2. Switching sides.
Now, as we do have the seconds remaining here, 28 for Mannheim to bolster their morale a little bit to see if they can sustain. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what this defensive position has in store for us, Kenobi.
And I think for Chambersburg here on the defensive side, it was pretty okay in terms of just like their way that they were moving forward. Mannheim had some really good defensive options, but I think Chambersburg had a really good second streets phase, which is the momentum that they took moving forward. And Mannheim, this is a winnable situation for them, especially with how good they played Blizzard World in the past. And Chambersburg has to put up a pretty significantly good defense to try and stop Mannheim in terms of their just momentum, because this is a team where once they have momentum, I don't think they ever give it up. We saw that on Lijiang Tower as well.
It's like trying to stop an avalanche. Once it starts, it just continues to snowball. And that has really been the mantra of Mannheim. When you give them an inch, they will take a mile. And that's something we can definitely see after that first map. It has been an even playing field to start, but slowly but surely you've seen one step after another that Mannheim continues to dominate as these doors open up here, Kenobi.
We see taking a little bit of a ride there. You know, I would love to ride the Falcon ride as well. You know, I want Blizzard World to be real. That's what I want.
I mean, Overwatch 2 is real
place.
soon. Maybe this will come to fruition one day.
Yeah, maybe. True.
As we take a look now at that defensive position, you've got Siberius playing this Ashe, having to be very careful. The damage boost comes out. A lot of space available for Mannheim to take advantage of. And that was a really great one to help lead the charge of the ultimate economy. Look at Squidder already having this Earth Shatter for the engagement, but you do still lose your code tank. Blau now in a very, very sad position at the respawn as you've got Aiden managing to get the charge, even though the Earth Shatter attempted to come out by Squidder. This could be a massive snowball, like I mentioned, with the Avalanche just being relentless, knocking down tree after tree that is Chambersburg on this defense.
Yeah, very convincing. I like the idea of this composition from Chambersburg. It's kind of like an old style composition where you can make fights 8v6 potentially with a Torbjorn turret and with a Bob. And I think that's probably what they're going to do here on the defensive side here for Chambersburg. It's going to be able to stop the bleeding a little bit because 5.5 minutes, and again, this is a part of the map where if you win 1 or 2 fights, you can snowball very easily into that 3rd point with a huge time bank. But with a Bob, I think it's going to be significantly harder for them to do that.
And with the crossfire from the turret, like you mentioned, it's going to be very key to see where that positioning is and what amount of focus fire is going to be there to try and prevent it from getting damage. You can already see Siberius continuing to maintain that bridgeway in the back. There's a shatter that comes out up front, and Bob has to be committed. Does get stunned on the front side and knocked back in the charge, but it will still be able to deal some decent damage. Numbers, though, from Mannheim constantly advancing from the high ground, dropping to the low ground just around that pylon terrace, continuing the advancement.
Love the proactivity as well there coming out from Mannheim, where I think Chambersburg wants to probably use that Bob as an engage tool, but there they have to use it defensively. Doesn't really get a ton of value as well. Ooh, Citrus Fruit, a little bit too over-aggressive, not respecting the damage coming in from the Ashe, and I think that's going to have to be a retreat.
You can see now even Mr. Monopoly looking to try and get some advanced positioning here since they do have the retreat, but still 4 minutes and 10 seconds on the time bank is a lot to work with, and you can take this patient play.
And I think that's the perfect thing that Chambersburg wants. They want to play this a little bit more slowly, right? They want to farm it to their key ultimates. They want to pressure out Mannheim as much as they can, and you can already see Siberius close towards another Bob. There comes the high noon. Not going to be able to take out anyone, but it does create space and forces out immortality.
Boy, go in some hot lava right now. The feet are on fire, as you will have some residue left in the bottom of those shoes. Well, the shoes just don't even exist anymore, so let's be quite content here.
I'm pretty sure lava can melt through shoes. Pretty sure that's how that works.
It's true. You're not wrong. I mean, seriously, like, let's just be honest. I mean, when you've got lava on top of the avalanche for once will actually reach an end.
And I mean, the thing that's been great about Chambersburg here is their ultimate economy rotation, right? They haven't just thrown away all of their ultimates in fights that were already won. There, they just use the Matrix and they use the Molten Core. Win a fight just by that. Now you have Bob for this next fight. You have Grab, you have Shatter. A lot of key ultimates that you're going to need to move forward, and it's so hard for Mannheim to realistically move forward against this composition because there's so much spam damage and shield damage coming in. There's another huge dynamite coming in from Siberius. That's the Bob.
4 ultimates stacked here, because you do see the checkpoint being close. You've got Bob being tossed out. Squidderp is down, though, and a Blizzard with a sound barrier coordinated between the two from Mannheim could be enough to make sure that there is enough distance covered, but Bob actually still gives a lot of assistance. Siberius also a Blau up front, managing to get a lot of just cohesive damage onto the front line with Focus Fire, looking to reset.
Siberius is having a hell of a game right there. I mean, just the Bob placement was really good in that fight. Just throw it onto cart, just have it contest. You don't really need it to be shooting. And then goes down and throws a huge dynamite into the middle of a Graviton Surge. Gets all of the members, starts burning them down, along with Lucio's Sound Barrier not really being an ult that can keep you alive for that long through burst damage. That's another fight win for Chambersburg, who have been playing this defense, again, phenomenally so far. Love the idea of this composition. It's working out so well. Abuse of the high ground and abuse of range is what they are doing to Mannheim, because Mannheim does not have a lot of range in their composition, and they have to make this slow rotation directly onto card here, but so much on the high ground to deal with.
And they find themselves once again in the midst of a Molten Core, drawn out from up top.
Oh no, they're committing.
You have a big commitment here is right, with Siberius getting an early pickup as well, with Bob tossed out. You have also the res onto the support, and this is getting closer and closer to Mannheim's first map loss of the tournament season.
So much commitment there from Mannheim in a fight that actually wasn't realistically that winnable, especially with the respawns that were coming from Chambersburg here. They used everything in their bank, and now Mannheim switches over their composition. With a minute left, you're not necessarily guaranteed another set of ultimate rotations. You can get close if you play it quickly enough, but we see here Mannheim Township just making some full sale swaps. So they're just going to try and dive onto that back line here, and Winston goes in, tries to get some cleave damage, and gets forced off. Nice.
Yeah, that coach gun was huge from Siberius. Again, this Ashe play has been stellar, attempting to re-engage on the high ground, does get the immortality field eliminated, but you also have Victory Rose being removed from the mech. You have once again a grab not going to come out in time. You will have a recovery here from Chambersburg. Rez comes out to get back as a hammer kill comes in. We've had not only a mech kill, but a hammer kill. It's been a full-fledged day of Overwatch for us in these playoffs. As 30 seconds remain now for Mannheim.
And this is the best chance for Mannheim right now. It is their last fight. There aren't that many ultimates left here for Chambersburg. They've used a lot of them. They haven't really gotten that much value in terms of just getting damage to charge up their ultimates that much in these last couple of fights. So this is the moment here for Mannheim. They're coming in on Sound Barrier. They have a Blizzard to work with. This is the last chance that they're going to have, and they have the ultimates to work with to do it.
Oh no,
Oh,
and you
no.
have the takedown onto Aiden. 6 versus 5. The Blizzard down below, trying to zone multiple members away, but there is still some distance with the remaining members, especially with Nortnite up top, using the Valkyrie to stay out. But the Shatter comes out to try and knock down the remaining few, even though the numbers advantage presently is in favor of Mannheim. Molten Core does get generated along with Bob in the midst of it all. The overtime starts to dwindle. It shifts in favor of Chambersburg. It finally is the kryptonite that is found, and you will see Mannheim losing their first map of the entire season. That is an upset to start. They are not out of this yet, but man, that is a definite morale decrease going into this fight.
No 3 Overwatch today, Rich. We finally have a series on our hands. Siberius is going to get play of the game. Deserved, I would say, because that Ashe performance was phenomenal. I mean, just the understanding of getting value in terms of the dynamites, the Bob usage was really good. This was just a perfect Ashe game all around, and for the first time, Mannheim looks mortal, and they will have to really ramp it up going into our third map.
We saw Susquehanna as the #1 seed be eliminated. Mannheim, now as the #2 seed, also finds themselves being quite contested here. There's still a lot more ahead of us. It's only a 1-to-1 in this best of 5, so we won't jump to the gun yet. But you mentioned it. Mortal, human, the Achilles heel has been revealed. And can that continue to go in favor of Chambersburg is really the question. And honestly, with Siberius opening up here, getting that Ashe play, and demonstrating their capabilities specifically on that map, which again was their pick, so they do have confidence going into it, we'll see if they can continue to take that momentum and really start to force back Mannheim, Kenobi.
We will, and now it's going to be an interesting position because Mannheim's the one who's going to get map pick, a position that they haven't been in before, right? They've won. They haven't lost a map yet.
Season.
So now this is the first one. It's like, what map do we pick? Or do we? It's like we've never been in this situation. So I wonder where they're going to take us. But again, I think the composition on the defensive end from Chambersburg, really, really loved everything about it. Loved that the idea of just abusing the range, especially on a map like Blizzard World, where it's very long and elongated sight lines. The Torbjorn, I think, was a good decision as well, just to make it realistically just the shield is not going to live past like Torbjorn and past the Torbjorn turret, the shield pressure. I think it was just a really good coaching decision all around from compositionally from Chambersburg, and I'm very impressed by them.
Well, and to build on the coaching dynamic you mentioned, the fact is that they had a macro strategy versus just the well, I mean, I guess I could say micro even too, because they lost the first initial point so swiftly because of just how the composition played. But they knew that their point of victory was in that open payload position. And you were right. They took full advantage of it. They played the bridgeways. They had multiple points on the high ground that they could constantly just harass and get that damage onto the shield, never allowing Mannheim to feel comfortable. And that really snowballed in the grand scale of things to finally take the first map away from Mannheim. And as you said, a position they've never truly been in. And that's got to be a huge mental shift for them to be like, all right, like, you know, we got it. We have to take this with a grain of salt, and we need to acknowledge that this next map is going to be a different game, and we cannot allow that to get into our head.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, it reminds me a little bit about the, you know, the UConn's women's basketball team where they like won like I think 99 games in a row and then lost eventually, like, and it's like, okay, and Gino Auriemma was always saying like, I wish we had lost that one because like, I want my players to know what it feels like to lose. And this is kind of a position where Mannheim is in right now, where they are in a position where they've lost. And now we get to see how a team of this caliber is able to bounce back from it. We're going to Rialto. That is their map pick. I think it's a good decision because they don't want to play in a very long, elongated sightline map where Torbjorn and Ashe really get a lot of value. This is much more cornery where it's like you don't have the longest of sightlines. It's pretty open, but the sightlines aren't necessarily there in a couple of these places as much as it is in Blizzard World. So I think Rialto, good decision from Mannheim to start this out.
There's really only two key spots that have a little bit of that long range. But again, they're not significant enough that I think you would see as much value. So I 100% agree with you because you've got that initial courtyard, and then you really have this bridgeway, which we pan over right now, where there's at least a little bit of distance that you can gain some value with it. But it really is going to be a challenge
And Mannheim will play this map in a selection that benefits their composition so they can shift this back into their favor. And we honestly could see this being a situation of match point or match selection victories where it's constantly going back and forth between the individual and team that selects the map going into it.
Definitely agree with you there. And we are going to Rialto here as we're going to jump in soon to find out what these team compositions are going to be. And I think as well for, you know, Mannheim, again, talking about the fact that this is a team where they haven't lost a map yet. And this is the first time where they're picking their own map. This might, you know, anger the beast. Potentially. That is also a possibility, right? There's a possibility where they will lose and like, oh, their momentum goes down. It's like, oh, we finally lost. Like, we don't get a golden stage. But there is also that part of them, like very like San Francisco Shock, where they lost that one series against Atlanta and then didn't lose a single map for the rest of the tournament. Like that is definitely the other side of the coin. So if you are Chambersburg here, bring out the same composition. So they have figured out the blueprint and they're going to say, doesn't matter what map we're on, this is the composition that we beat you with, and we're going to stick to it hell or high water.
And we'll see if there's enough coal being tossed in to the furnace from Mannheim to outmatch it, and Chambersburg feeling that they got to go back to the drawing board with a composition they feel confident could do the job. As you now have Joey entering in onto this map with the Widowmaker play alongside Widow only, does already see a takedown with Siberius. There is a takedown onto the turret though, so you get a little bit of Bionade comes out again though from Citrus Fruit all the way between those archways on the high balcony, so that's going to give a nice advancement into this open courtyard.
There is the DMEC, and right now I think if you're Chambersburg right here, you're just letting them take space away from you. Joey is able to get a pick, and Joey's going to be an incredibly important part of this composition because Mannheim is going to try and create space for Joey and see if Joey can get any good sightlines and get some picks. And with picks like that onto Mr. Monopoly, those are the picks that Mannheim is going to need in a composition like this.
But you're always going to have to think in these long run fights, you have to get a double tap because that Mercy res is so close in proximity to Mr. Monopoly, allowing it to still be a 6 versus 6. You do have a takedown, though, on Mannheim, so they need to be extremely careful. Another comes through, advantage for Chambersburg to hold, and this payload hasn't really moved too much into this courtyard yet.
And I think the Winston is going to be leaving this map. Aiden's going to be switching over to the Reinhardt, and there is a pick onto Siberius. Don't know if the resurrection is going to be there yet. They're trying to cancel as much as they can, and they take out North Knight. Very good job. That means there is no Ashe in this map.
Yep, with a nano boost as well onto the Rhine, getting that extra swing damage up front, just continuing to aggress, looking for the Fire Strike pick even onto the Torb, as you have a great follow-up by Widow only. Honestly, great early pickup onto Siberius, which really shifted that momentum.
And in this matchup between Siberius and Joey is going to be incredibly important. It is a first point tick here for Mannheim Township, but you look at Chambersburg in this next fight, a lot of ultimates coming in from them. Bob and Molten Core available to them, whereas Mannheim, you're just trying to create space for Joey here. Joey is the one to look out for. With Onyxi going down, though, that's a big pick from Widow only, and that means the resurrection is forced, which means that there is not a res potentially for the Ashe, but it doesn't matter because Frogger goes down, and that should be Mannheim moving.
Yeah, you lose that res capability. You want to just wait for Frogger to get back into this, dwindling the time bank, but there's still 4 minutes to work with. Siberius getting a couple of good body shots here, not finding the execution they wanted Joey, so it's still allowing this payload to move. And this is a difficult position now. When you are the attacking side, this stairway can be so challenging, but the rocket barrage is there, coming through overhead. First to take out the turret, looks for a second, manages to get Siberius, but it's not going to get as much value as I think they would have hoped for from Mannheim, as the res comes through, up top by Nornite, looking to get that consistent hit scan damage out once again from Siberius. Presence onto the point. Bob as well secures a hold here just at that corner.
Seeing Joey trying to get some sightlines in, but not really getting as many shots as they would like here. It's such a scrappy fight that Widowmaker can't really get the sights that they want. They have to make something happen here and move forward. Mannheim backing it up just a little bit. Victoria Rose with the self-destruct available. Are they going to use it here just to try and engage?
potentially tossing it through that doorway or over the payload, looking for the advantage, manages to toss it out. Victory Rose getting very low, does peek behind the corner. Charge lands the onto Squitter, keeping them in sight lines of the self-destruct. Widow only goes down with some focus from Siberius, but because of that tank being eliminated, the follow-through by Aiden secures this payload's continued push.
Aiden clutches that fight completely. That self-destruct into the combo along with the charge and with the nano, beautifully played from Mannheim, and they're moving forward with 4 minutes in their time bank. They finally figured out a way to break this composition from Chambersburg, and Chambersburg have to swap their composition to something different, a little bit more of the standard rush style of composition coming out from them. Ground surge available here for Blau, gets one.
We'll see potentially the Earthshatter follow-up once they are dwindled on the shielding. Does not get blocked. Bull tank down, but the supports at the back are still managing to survive as you got the rotation coming through by Onyx Eye. A Siberius follow-through as well onto the Reaper play. So you've got now Mannheim having to fall back, look for a regroup, and hold on that choke point.
Siberius able to really clutch that one out here on the McCree, not on the Ashe anymore, and Mannheim played that. I mean, they got a lot of ultimates out of Chambersburg. That's the biggest thing right there. Chambersburg don't really have any ultimates to work with in this next fight, and you're going up against a Rocket Barrage, and you don't have a Diva. So this is going to be a very scary fight. This Immortality field has to be incredibly good from Onyx Eye, or else it's going to spell disaster for Chambersburg.
Widow only, waiting for the drop down, gets the reposition, does look for one, the Immortality field comes out, there is some great assistance, does get locked out, but no one can follow up onto it. The chaos that reigns from overhead was undisclosed ahead of time, and that's 3 minutes with a great pickup by Widow.
The Immortality field was good, but it just wasn't enough against a Nano Pharah Barrage, and Mannheim will now start moving forward here. Chambersburg coming back into this fight. Blau is very close to that Graviton Surge, but doesn't have the charge maybe necessarily to follow it up here, but they got to get someone on cart.
Oh, Shatter comes out onto 2. You don't have the ability to get that frontline presence with Squitter almost being eliminated.
Yep.
The supports are pumping in so much healing to try and hold on to this defensively with 2 minutes and 30 seconds to go. Norton Knight on the outside looking for the boot to try and give some distance between the front position so that they can recover as Blau gets the D-back and the follow-up by Squitter. That should be Joey playing farther back, but unfortunately gets taken down by the Hammer of Justice and held back with 2 minutes and 15 to go.
And I like this decision from Chambersburg to move over to the Junkrat over the mate, because what the Junkrat offers is a lot more shield break, and the shield break now is about even between both of these teams. I think it's a really good decision from Chambersburg. Chambersburg have a lot of ultimates to work with as well coming into this next fight. To Mannheim don't necessarily have the most to work with here, and especially that Blizzard, that Pharah Barrage rather, can get countered by an Immortality field and by the sound of Chambersburg.
And also just being in this close positioning, it's going to be very risky for Widow only to play very far forward, especially with Joey with the flashbang, also just having the ability to get controlled by that front position with the Diva. You have the sound barrier available with now the Onyx Eye losing the Immortality field. The flank comes in by Joey, finds the pickup onto the backline. Bolt supports are down, continuing to just rain free as the damage comes out high onto the tank. Squitter eliminated. The res comes through onto Citrus Fruit, and that shall be a securance as Mannheim completes with 1 minute and 21 seconds on the clock, Kenobi.
Beautiful flank from Mannheim, and unfortunately, Norite's going to be kicking themselves that they died with that sound barrier. That is not an ultimate you want to be dying with in a scenario like that where it's possible that you would get the hold, but Mannheim capitalize. Very good flank from Joey at the very end, getting those couple of picks at the very at the end of the round, and it's going to be Mannheim securing a full complete of Rialto. Now this is interesting for Chambersburg because we did see them bring out the composition that won them Blizzard World, and it didn't work out as well as it did on Blizzard World. Do they do the same thing on offense, where I think that composition struggles a little bit more? I think they would probably tend more towards playing a regular style of rush, but, you know, anything, it doesn't, you know, look what they're on right now for Chambersburg. They could possibly play something totally different.
I mean, they're in a position where they're not on match point situation. So they could feel confident attempting to bring this out, knowing that they can take it to another map. And if they do lose this one, it is a map selection for themselves, which they could still feel confident going into, and wanting to maybe go into this transition back and forth to where we do reach a match 5 back on Control, which I think they might feel a little more confident out. But also with that in mind, Control did go in favor of Mannheim quite convincingly towards the later ends of it. So they want to try and get this as quickly as possible, as we're going to have the doors open to see what the comp is.
Looks like Chambersburg is going to be sticking to that composition that did win them Blizzard World. Interestingly, though, Mannheim has opted for a bit of a similar composition, just not the Torbjorn, offering the Junkrat instead, so a lot of spam and shield damage. But now Joey is a little bit more on even footing against this composition because he has a Mercy pocket and he's Ashe himself, so that matchup's a little bit more fair in terms of the hit scan matchup. This turret, though, from Mr. Monopoly, probably not going to get a ton of value because it'll get taken out very quickly against a composition like a Junkrat.
There is so much damage from Mannheim with this combination, and it is going to be a sheer mountain to climb to get through. But if you can continue to find picks like that, especially after picking up the res from Siberius, that will allow some great momentum into this open courtyard and continue to snowball.
Oh, and with the Rhine going down, that's just the fight over, and now it's just a full retreat for Mannheim. They have to get out of here. They have to salvage what they can. If they can save some of their members before they die, that's best case scenario, but they just want to be able to stay here and re-engage because they don't want to lose this point with just one single fight. I think Mr. Monopoly got a little bit too over-aggressive. Now here will come to re-engage from Mannheim to try and stop them from getting this pick.
I mean, and look at how much space you've seen gained from Chambersburg going into this. They forced them back. They're now only just 3.5 meters shy of it, with this still 2 minutes and 40 seconds on the bank. A lot of health bars low, though, for Chambersburg. Is there a follow-through from Mannheim to eliminate them in the desperate moments? With a trap coming through in the back line, you do have Widow only continuing to flourish with those grenades on the front position, and they manage to hold on with a disconnect, unfortunately, as well on Chambersburg.
Yeah, I think this time it's a decent flank here from Widow only. Has the Mercy with them, so able to survive a lot of the pot shots coming in from the Ashe. Disconnect here, just waiting for the pause. There it is, finally, we get the disconnect. You know, tech issues, they do happen, unfortunately, and, you know, luckily it's not luckily it wasn't directly during a fight, so we will get an actual reset in this fight once the player comes back into this map.
It's also just one of those things, too, that it's better to have had it occur when you are lower in the ultimate economy so that you don't find yourself like, well, I just lost an ultimate and feel like I
it
now
feels
have
less
to
bad.
Again. It's less bad. Less bad.
Yeah.
Still bad. Less bad.
Yeah, and I think these teams, maybe, they're just trying to practice for Overwatch too, you know?
They are.
Just trying to get the mentality of what it's like when you have 5 players on your team.
And again, this is one of those things where it's kind of like the mental game. Like, how do you feel going into this? Allowing yourself to be comfortable with any type of situation that comes ahead of you, especially being on finals day. Because we really didn't have this type of disconnection problem the previous week, as we finally look to have the 6th player back online. It is going to be Mr. Monopoly coming back in with a Torbjorn, sticking to it, not going to swap, and you can already see an early pickup from a Dynamite to take the advantage against Mannheim.
Oh, and they're caught in here, actually. This is not good. This is very not good. Widow only gets taken down again, but the Shatters onto both support. That's huge, but they're saved, and Mannheim just try to go aggressive with their numbers advantage, but it ends up completely Uno reverse carding onto them. And now Chambersburg has a little bit of an advantage and create space, and I don't know if there's anything to spill.
Ooh, First Shatter doesn't really get anything here up front. A little overzealous now in return from Chambersburg with only the 1 up front. You wanted to get that takedown so you have at least the numbers advantage. Rip Tower comes out. Bob not going to get any value here. I mean, there's a nice recovery back and forth. 1 minute and 18 seconds now remain, and Chambersburg are finding themselves in the challenging position.
That grab, that was a grab of desperation there from Blaui. There's no follow-up from the rest of the team. Oh, it's a disaster from Chambersburg. They're going to have to retreat here. And that's an advantage that they could have had going into this next fight. There were no defensive ultimates available for Mannheim, and that Graviton Surge is definitely one you're going to want to have back. So Chambersburg forward here. They have the Amplification Matrix, and they have the Molten Core, so they can zone off this point in this enclosed area.
I feel like Mr. Monopoly was looking to have that Molten Core up online with the grab, but fall just shy, because that would have been a beautiful time to toss it out there while all were stacked together. But now you have a takedown again. Siberius getting the advantage. Chambersburg has that push potential. Molten Core is active, going to completely place it down in front of the payload to make sure that they've got a home stretch to push to reach this next checkpoint to get into the time bank. And there is some aggression up front by the Zarya play, but because it just can't seem to persevere through the fire beneath their feet, that is a checkpoint gained with 2 minutes and 40 seconds.
Yeah, unfortunately, Mannheim, this isn't Dragon Force. You're not going through the fire and the flames. The fire and the flames will kill you. Unfortunately, in Chambersburg, get a new life. 2.5 minutes left to go through the second Streets phase of Rialto here. They keep a lot of key ultimates. They keep their amplification matrix, which is good because they'll need it to push forward and create space for their team. And at a point where you're at with like 2.5 minutes, you need as much space as you can get and as much time as you can get. Widow only going on the large flank here. Oh, they have no idea. They have no idea where this Junkrat is.
Sneaky play. They should be able to get some vision of it going straight for the supports. The tank is right there. Great shield for the support line, but you're going to lose Squidderps. Most likely attempted to probably keep the tank alive, but now this full-fledged attack comes through. You've got the shatter from Aiden dropping down Siberius with Nortnite going out of this fight as well in the attack and just dwindling numbers. You just see the scramble, and Onyx Eye's like, I'm just out. I'm gonna go take a swim.
Yeah. Onyx Eye's like, I'm going, I don't need the gondola. I don't need anything. I'm just going down directly into the Ritter. And you see Mr. Monopoly switching over to a Junkrat of their own. So trying to match the spam damage coming in. Chambers for 5 stack of ultimates coming up into this next fight. 1 minute and 30 seconds is all that's left. So if they lose this, they're not going to get another set of ultimate rotations. This is all that they're going to get.
See the high ground being taken though by 2. Joey need to play very careful along with Widow only playing basically 2 points for a crossfire with this Junkrat grenade, but does get dislodged from that high ground. Widow only needing to play super careful as the aggression comes through now by Chambersburg, taking that stairway position, looking to drop down. Bubbles on the Rhines. The Immortality Field comes out. Grab is there. Some recoveries there enough to follow up with the Amplification Matrix is right on top. You see the sustain from the defensive side of Manheim. Holding on, but the stun comes out. Valkyrie Force, along with the Immortality Field, tossed out of the mix as Aiden gets back online and has the shatter. Chambersburg not out of this yet with 40 seconds to go, but the counter play comes through where Manheim looks to take advantage. Now you've got Nortnite going to get rezzed and keeping a hold onto this with Squidderps also following through.
But this fight isn't winnable. They have to die, and they have to die quickly, and they finally are able to do so. Only 30 seconds left here for Chambersburg. A lot of ultimates committed from both sides, but the Bob is still here for Chambersburg. Siberius is going to be able to turn this fight into a 7v6. But that Junkrat Riptire from Widow only. We've seen what they can do in the past, and there's the High Noon. There's no shield. They have to force Immortality Field. Huge.
With now the final seconds dwindling, the rush has to come out. Siberius looking to peek
Oh,
toward
no.
the toss. As you have a takedown, Joey manages to counter Mr. Monopoly, swapping onto the Reaper late in the tail end of this as the Riptire comes through. Gets
support.
the double on the support line. That is just one member after another on Chambersburg going down. Manheim on the defensive side, hold strong, and now find themselves at a 2-1 map score, moving into this, forcing Chambersburg into now a map selection for Game 4.
Manheim able to hold at the very, I mean, it was a bit scary from Blizzard World, but here this looks like a team that hasn't, had before, I guess, Blizzard World. Hadn't lost a map before. They had a really good understanding of how to beat the Torbjorn and the Ashe comp, and they said, look, we're just going to fight fire with fire, right? That's how we're going to play it. We're going to bring our own Junkrat, we're going to bring our own Ashe to the table, and we're going to, fight you on even ground. And on even ground, I think I would always favor Manheim just because of the fact that they are such a good team. And now, if you're Chambersburg, you're probably thinking about going to a map where there is the possibility to bring out that composition again. I believe we're going to hybrid. I'm not entirely sure. No, 2CP.
The last one, 2CP,
it's gonna be Assault.
yes.
Yeah, Assault. So I assume that, again, you're probably going to try and pick a map where the composition of the Ashe and the Torb can really thrive, and it's going to be Hanamura, actually. Thank you to our director who's giving us that info. And Hanamura is very good for Ashe Torb, extremely good. The chokeholds are going to be so hard to get through on the offensive side from Manheim, if that's depending on who's going to be on offense or defense first, and that's also going to be an interesting decision. Who's going to be the one to be the defense first, and who's going to be the one to be the offense first, because that can really set the tone for the rest of the map.
And as we take a lovely pan over the map of Havana, arcade games to start it off.
Hanamura.
I mean, this is also, I know, right? This is one of those maps for Hanamura where honestly we could also see potentially some Doomfist play. I know that you mentioned with the Ashe and the Torbjorn that it would be a challenge to go into it, but we've seen some stellar play already from Only Widow previously on that map of Blizzard World, which can come to fruition. But you're very right about who is going to be playing that defensive side first and the attacking, because that really can set the tone. And going on to this first initial point, we find ourselves on the 2CP, which I know all of us at home know and love. 2CP,
our first map. Havana, now you're making me do it. That's not fair. That's not
I know,
fair.
I said that too. I said that, and I realized I was just going to roll it off the shoulders, and then we revisit once again with Hanamura.
Hanamura, the map that we're going to, also very aesthetically pleasing map. I just love cherry blossoms are just. I don't think you can ever go. I mean, I'm biased, obviously. Oh no, it's actually over there this time. But I don't think you can ever go full.
You're right.
I think it's really good. Yeah, that's stage left, stage, whatever. But Hanamura is going to be the map that we're going to now. And again, Doomfist, I think it's a possibility on second. On A, it's pretty hard to play, I think, unless you're like a really good Doomfist, which, to be fair, we do have Widow Only, who is a good Doomfist in their own right. But as you can see, we're going to be going into game here to check out who the composition, or who's going to have what composition and who's going to be on the defensive end. And it is going to be, it looks like, on the defensive end, we have Mannheim Township, which is interesting because they're the ones choosing defense first, which I like because that means that they're not letting Chambersburg do their setup in terms of being the team that plays the defensive first, where they play the Ash and the Torb and possibly get full held. And then they're like, oh, we have to only play for a draw here. It's very difficult.
Yeah, they want to set the pace. They want to be able to hold the position to now understand what their objective is. And we've seen that previously as well on other maps where they look to do this type of positioning if they have the opportunity to select the side, which again, they've pretty much always had, excluding that one map that they did finally lose.
So we see the teleporter coming in from the Symmetra, just going to try and teleport directly onto point here, but there's so much spam that they have to be careful that the teleporter doesn't get killed before they go in. And with the Lucio down, that's a lot of speed you've lost. And actually, it looks like Mannheim's just going to, or Chambersburg rather, just going to try and take the long way to go directly onto point. But without that Lucio, it's going to be so hard for them to get the speed they need.
Yeah, the utility that you've lost in that fight so early with the positioning up top from Widow Only is really just causing so much devastation. And it's just very discombobulated because even Mr. Monopoly with the Symmetra didn't get a group to actually take the teleporter. It was only them.
Yeah, it was really good pressure coming in from Mannheim that they basically were like, you are not going to be able to teleport. We have a Pharaoh who can one-shot the Symmetra turret with the damage boosted rocket, and Widow Only already has the barrage coming into this next fight. Chambersburg is going to try again with the Symmetra just to try and teleport onto that point. But you look at, I love the way Mannheim is playing this, right? They're just waiting on point, and they're basically telling Chambersburg, okay, you want to come to point? We're right here. Like, come to point. We're here. Do it.
I mean, and Joey's just sitting pretty. Just up top, I've got my pocket. I don't need to worry. I'm healed and I'm boosted and I can do what I want. But with this position, it makes it challenging to find the sightlines. But Widow Only finds every sightline. Is the 6 gonna come through? There it is. Lights up the kill feed. The entire team kill. And I was looking for a spray. There's the spray on the floor for Widow Only.
Widow Only is not just a Widow player, and we're going to see finally the Symmetra experiment has failed for Chambersburg. They're moving back over to a more standardized style of rush. Siberius is going to be on this McCree, which is going to be good because someone needs to be putting pressure onto Widow Only, because this, if you're there for left to their own devices there, another 6K could just come in willy-nilly.
Siberius looking to peek very carefully here. Does get the tumble. Oh, but now they're right there. The flashbang comes out. You still have Widow Only barely able to escape, though, and almost near another rocket barrage. That is going to be a quick generation, especially with how grouped up. The concussion rocket almost actually knocks them and dislodges them from that high ground position. But the shield comes out just in a great timing to block that positioning.
We're seeing Chambersburg playing this slow, that they want to make sure that they can get onto point safely with all their cooldowns, because they're going to need them. But at this time, Widow Only is already farmed towards another barrage here. Blau is going to have to be incredibly important in this next fight with that defense matrix. They need to keep eyes on where this Pharah is at all times.
Ooh, but that amplification matrix with the fire strike onto the support line is huge. But this counter pick, and what a recovery from Mannheim on the defensive position, just exploiting that subtle weakness that opened up.
And the flashbang from Siberius, just the pixels away from stopping the resurrection onto the Mercy. If they had gotten both of those picks on the healers, there's a possibility that the fight could have been winnable for Chambersburg, but only 50 seconds left for Chambersburg here. Not a lot of ultimates to talk about either. They're close to some key ones. They're close to a sound barrier. Blizzard, not necessarily there just yet, but Joey's going to have this bomb, and any fight that happens now is going to be a 7v6.
Only peeking over, looking for an angle, but isn't going to commit, acknowledging that the Diva's still there, waiting for the chance. The Earthshatter comes out, does get a stun, following up as well onto Aiden, but the Immortality Field is forced out. Rocket's raining overhead, getting rid of that, but a great flashbang to shut it down. But Joey still finds a long-range angle, also with that assistance from Bob, getting a triple and having the res with a position, a contention there for Chambersburg, but this is still Mannheim's round defensively.
Oh, and they're just going to stagger this Diva so much that they're not going to be back here for this next fight. Squiddarp's going to be on that Hammond just to try and get someone onto this point to stall and proc that overtime, but I don't think it's going to be enough, Rich. Actually, with Frogger going down, that's a huge pick. That means there is no pocket for the Pharah.
And Joey gets picked up, solely rely on Citrus Fruit, who was divided away from the team. The Amplification Matrix has to come out. Widow only and get some decent shots there. But with Citrus Fruit locked down by the May, it's going to be an opportunity to potentially contest this. Widow only still left alone. Again, you cannot allow this Pharah to be anywhere left uncontested. Round 1 completed, 36.2% obtained. But you mentioned it, holding on the defensive side to set the bar and know exactly how high they have to jump.
Yeah, and I mean, they were able to, for Chambersburg, they were able to get a tick, which is big because I think they'll probably bring out their Ash Torb composition on the defensive end here. And they play well enough that if they play it like perfectly as well as they did on Blizzard World, I wouldn't be shocked if they full held. So that tick could be the difference maker. And if we go to straight to grand finals after this, or if we go to a map 5.
It's something that we saw in Blizzard World in the previous series. Like, holding on to that initial point was very critical with the time that was remaining and just putting so much effort into it. So it's something that we have definitely seen come to fruition. Is now we take a look at the defensive position. Siberius, though, going to come out on the Pharah play with Mr. Monopoly with the Reaper. The Reaper got caught out a little bit here, so that's going to be the biggest concern is will we see that occur once again versus playing that Ash Torbjorn like you commented on.
And I think the thing about the Reaper as well is the Reaper doesn't have a lot of range, which is what I'm worried about, because I think the Reaper here is going to be just there to brawl, and you don't have a lot of utility, like you don't have a flashbang or anything, so they're really just banking on the fact they're going to be in these very enclosed, brawly types of situations, and if the symmetric composition is coming out, I think on point, Reaper can thrive, but it feels like a very all-or-nothing type of thing.
Well, it's do or die. This is match point for Mannheim. So Chambersburg has to be able to bring this to another map of control. With 4 minutes remaining on the time bank, their hopes and dreams to move into another round, getting closer to that grand finals. You have Victory Rose continuing to pump out damage through that position, not able to get as much energy charge here with these bubbles. Does get the teleporter through that side position, going on the top of the pagoda with a flank as the coverage comes through. Immortality Field tossed out on the front side, but you still have Siberius getting a lot of value with the front line as well for Squiddarps. Blau continuing to stay topped off and well to survive on the front line, and that will be Mannheim forced back by this first fight by Chambersburg.
And I think it was really well done from, actually, there's still members of Mannheim here. I think it's best if they this is time that's being taken off the clock. You just want to go down. Like, don't need to try and contest those fights. You just want to go down, want to reset as quickly as you can. And Joey actually will be going over to the Widowmaker, which is going to put pressure onto Siberius here. And, a very aggressive go-in from this Reaper. They're going to be able to Wraith out. And they force out Immortality Field. That's actually a pretty decent trade.
Really like that aggression, and now you have to play safely for the moment until Citrus Fruit is back online with that Immortality Field. There's still going to be a little bit of a forward momentum here. The defense matrix comes out up front by Victory Rose, and a rotation by Siberius, but the Rocket's close in proximity, gets the double, takes down the support of the tank, and that should be another reset here, and we've already got almost half the time bank dwindled away for now Mannheim's attack.
That was only one ultimate used there from Chambers, just the Pharah Barrage, and like I talked about, that one tick could be the difference. A lot of ultimates still here for Chambersburg. This ultimate economy that they've accrued can be tempoed well enough to where they can win this map, and Mannheim Township Side High School have to make something happen here. Widowmaker has not put that much pressure onto the Pharah. Blizzard available for Widow only. Do they want to use it this fight, or are they just going to make a little bit of an echo push and try and get some ultimates out of Chambersburg before they use theirs? Citrus shoots dies so early, though.
That's got to be another reset here. You have to fall back on this. You've lost your Immortality Field. The Shatter of the Death Blossom has been committed. A lot of ultimates come out from Chambersburg, and this is the moment Mannheim has to try and take this 36.2% advantage.
I don't know, Rich. That was very expensive in a fight where they didn't have the Baptiste. That fight was over. There is almost no way that Chambersburg has a chance to win that fight. Citrus Juice does go down, but a very expensive fight from Chambersburg, and they might end up regretting that because you look at Mannheim, they didn't use any ultimates. They kept all of theirs. This is an ultimate economy deficit that might be too big for Chambersburg to climb here, but there's only a minute left.
Seconds dwindle. You can see the engagement up front. You almost have Aiden go down. The sound barrier leads in for an aggressive push, trying to get the pickup as the Blizzard's most likely going to be dropped, but there's a 1-for-1 exchange. Aiden is down. The res coming out onto Siberius in the back. You no longer have the Mercy available for Mannheim since they've opted for the utility versus the res. And now Chambersburg will be able to take this fight in the close encounter. The Reaper does get some value, but still goes down. This should ultimately be Chambersburg defensively here, forcing Mannheim for their final fight.
Oh, and Mannheim use everything too, and they don't win. They use the Blizzard, they use the Sound Barrier and the Ant Matrix. No value from any of those ultimates, and Mannheim have one last shot at this. Chambersburg is here, still have ultimates to work with. They have a Shatter. They also have that Rocket Barrage. It's all going to be on the back of Siberius here. And here goes.
Oh. Shatter came in, falling short. Squidurp and Siberius dropping their ults onto Mannheim. You have the aggression moving forward to the point to try and contest, but there are too few remaining. Joey and Widow only, though, with a hope and a dream to turn the tides, but they are not going to sell. You're basically going to see those tides settle quickly into a just tranquil water, because we are now going into a map 5 where we'll have Chambersburg making it an even 2-for-2 unless there is a miraculous comeback, which I do not foresee from Mannheim. The overtime will dwindle, and this self-destruct looking to try and maybe get two.
No way!
I made him speaking too soon. The Widow. Oh my goodness. I don't even know what to say here. You're actually going to have to swap. The picks are coming back and forth. The exchange, the death loss is mitigated by the defense matrix, and now it will finally reach its end. There was a Hail Mary play by Victory Rose, but it's still going to be Chambersburg Kenobi as we go to a map 5.
I mean, there was a Hail Mary, and I thought that after the kill onto the Tracer and the Mercy, that there was a potential for that to be brought back, but unfortunately, the Hail Mary just stopped at the 1-yard line, and the tick, that last tick mattered so much to Chambersburg, and we are going to a map 5 here, Rich. Finally, your prediction from last week ends up being correct. We finally get the map 5 we've been waiting for.
We do. It is long awaited. You know, I might not have gotten it right last week, but I still feel that I get some kind of brownie points, even if it's a half a brownie going into this day. So, I mean, we will definitely be seeing a control map, but the biggest concern is here. We had the control map go in favor of Mannheim. So with that being said, are we going to see that same type of dominance like we did on the previous map? Or are we going to have Mannheim be shaken now, since they have now dropped 2 maps against a team that, you know, we could have looked at as, you know, just another one for Mannheim to add to the tally of teams that they have gone through to reach that grand finals. And between these two, this is really going to be suspenseful, not only for Mannheim to continue moving on, but also because that's our HyperX prediction pick.
I mean, yeah, there's slight caster bias here, but I mean, I'm just in for a good game of Overwatch, and this has been it. This has been a fantastic series of Overwatch. We have to remember also that Chambersburg is the 3rd team, the 3rd seed, so they're no slouches either. They're nothing to sniff at, and they've definitely proven that they belong up here with the big boys of Pennsylvania High School Overwatch. So again, I think I said that anyone could win this tournament going forward, and there's still these 2 teams where it's like, if I look at them going to play Garnet Valley, still think that that's true. I think Garnet Valley can also win the tournament. We do have a map 5 here to decide, though, who will be going forward, and I like that our producers flashed our predictions just one last time. Hopefully they don't do that at the end of the series if Mannheim loses, because that'd be a bit embarrassing.
It's okay. I mean, you know, we win together, we lose together. So at least we're doing it holding hands from such a far distance away. We'll just see our arms like that, like off cam. Or no, I'm that way. I'm that way. There we go. We're going to go that way. There it is. Just, yeah, there it is. High five. High five. Yeah, we're going to do that. But yes, we're just waiting for that conclusive control map and to see what's going to come through. Because again, we've seen Li Jiang twice today. That was the starting control map standard before swapping back and forth between map choices. So as we enter into our next map, which looks like it is and confirmed going to be Ilios. So now this one has a lot of different dynamics to each map that as we enter onto, I'm really curious to see what the confirmed compositions are going to be between the two of these teams.
And we did see Widow only bring out the Pharah. We also saw Siberius bring out the Pharah, and Ilios is one of those maps where it's very open. Pharah has a lot of really good avenues to play in maps like this. We also are going to be seeing Joey subbed out for R Santana, and I think R Santana was the one who was playing McCree mostly, so that tells me probably McCree coming out, maybe May, and then a Pharah combo along with it, or it's just going to be full on rush for Ilios, and that's going to be where Mannheim is going to try and win this from.
And, you know, having that substitute come in this last critical moment could also just be the shakeup. You know, you have that versatility in your hero pool, the dominant play by McCree, which we've seen from R Santana before, specifically more so on Blizzard World. Even though it did not go in favor of Mannheim, the McCree play was still stellar in the synergy between both Widow Only and R Santana. So as we just look to see exactly what map we're going to be entering on first, or correction, what round of this map, I think that's really going to also set the tone moving over the course of these rounds and who can start taking that early advantage.
And I think going into this, right, where it's like the early advantage, there's a lot of momentum. This is a momentum-based game, right, a lot of the time, where it's like if you win that first map, you have a lot of momentum on your side. And again, for Mannheim, this is a team that before this series had not lost a map yet. Remember, like, not lost a map, a single map they hadn't lost. They were perfect. And now Chambersburg is here, and Chambersburg is 9 weeks, yeah. And Chambersburg is here. Chambersburg is fighting toe-to-toe with them, and this might be where the pressure starts to really get onto Mannheim, and they potentially crack. So we'll have to see if they have that mentality of like champions, or if they're not just there yet.
As we're entering now into our Game 5 of Ilios, we find ourselves on the map of Ruins, where this can be an interesting type of playing field for Widowmakers, or in our case, some real change-ups, with Widow Only coming out on the Echo and R Sinatra with the Hanzo.
R Santana going to be on that Hanzo. So a lot of long-range spam coming in from Mannheim Township's composition, whereas Chambersburg is a very, very enclosed range composition. They want to get in. This is kind of what I mentioned when it's like it's T-Rexy, where they don't have long arms, but if those arms get you, you are not going to survive very long.
A lot of damage being pumped into that narrow corridor, and another one we're also finding out just at the last minute is you can see in the roster that you're having Sky Silver being rotated in for Nort Knight, who we've seen a majority of this series so far, and seeing if that Lucio play can be also the defining factor, as it will go in favor of Chambersburg first, but the numbers advantage in the long haul here are for Mannheim, looking to pick up the last couple of few with some great aggressive play by Citrus Few to take down the support.
Yeah, it's just stall tactics right there for Chambersburg, and they do get 9%, could be a difference maker, but now Mannheim are going to be the ones who have control of this point duplicate very soon for Widow Only, and Chambersburg, they're going to have to play very carefully around that. And, ooh, Siberius going down means there's more time that's going to be taken off the clock here for Chambersburg. Just a random Hanzo arrow. That happens to me in some of my ranked games, and I would be upset. That Siberius is probably a little bit upset.
I mean, when you're tossing out tree trunks, I mean, it's always a bad time. Just constantly doming the enemy with some lovely redwoods. As you continue to see, look at the amount of damage just coming out, generating that ultimate here, going to have the Dragon Strike, and no one's really being able to contest against it. Widow Only comes in now with a duplicate onto the McCree, has the flashbang available, as you have Mr. Monopoly looking to try and get up front with some extra damage, but knocked down to the Shatter, still low, finally picks up 1-for-1 exchange, as Squitter gets a nice side swivel, but ultimately it's still favoring Mannheim on this position.
Yeah, I really love the positioning as well from Mannheim here. They're not letting Chambersburg get into any area of the map without getting spammed down and forcing out at least some sort of cooldowns, especially with the Hanzo and the Echo really holding those chokeholds extremely well against Chambersburg, and it's actually going to force Mr. Monopoly to go to the Junkrat. So this offers not necessarily a range advantage, but it makes them less T-Rexy than they were before, and it offers the spam, so the shield break is going to be a little bit here in favor of Chambersburg.
That side angle, pressing forward, has the Deadeye, looking for the amplification matrix to already get some early engagement and damage onto that Mercy play, using the Valkyrie and 4. Oh my goodness! What a overwhelming execution on that ramp. Just my goodness.
I mean, sometimes you're a Reinhardt and you swing into a grab of 6 people with Nano and Mercy Valkyrie boost, and you just win a fight. And that's exactly what happens there. 95% ticking up. It's just stall tactics right now for Chambersburg, and Wrecking Ball is going to go down. This is just done and dusted in this match.
If there was ever a morale boost, it's right there. But as I talk about a morale boost, you might have some retaliation coming through from Chambersburg. They did not like at all that quick takedown of the team with the bell ringing in the background. And there is some great recovery here, switching this and taking it back from Mannheim.
Spoke too soon and caster cursed it, Rich, unfortunately. And Chambersburg here is going to get another chance at this, a second life, if you will. But Mannheim is coming in on some key ultimates. That duplicate, again, had a lot of value in that last fight. Chambersburg, a little bit more of a different composition now as well. They are a little bit more of that Hammond composition where you want to get a lot of disruption into those backlines, let the Hammond go in and the Tracer follow up those kills. But it's going to be hard against the Rush, but they take down Frogler. That's a big one.
Yeah, and the fact that you're going to have to draw back now, you can't solely rely on your tanks out of the fight, too. That's an easy cleanup here for Chambersburg. And they're going to press the attack, too, on it.
That's what they're doing here, especially winning that fight with... I mean, they only use the Pulse Bomb, which isn't an ultimate that's, like, it's important, but you get it back extremely quickly in a lot of these fights. So I don't think it's the worst overcommitments I've ever seen, but probably could have saved it in a perfect world. Chambersburg still holding on, though. See Squid here on the Hammond. Next pile drive will have a minefield, so a lot of displacement available for this Hammond play.
Using that architecture to block sightlines to not see exactly where the Wrecking Ball is and not also get pinned. Great engagement. Looks for the pile drive in the back, just shy of the minefield, so there isn't an immediate follow-up and going to wait. But the fact that the pile drive gets rid of the support and a cleanup for Siberius with the Tracer and a Riptire committed, that's 3 down. You have to just look for a regroup because this is going to be last fight. You need to get back and just completely run it.
Yeah, Widow only needs to die on point as much as they can here, and actually they're trying to escape. No, you just gotta end, because now, I mean, look at where the percentage is right now. It's at 90%, and Echo might not be here for this fight in full, especially with that Graviton Surge taking out the Lucio. Oh, this is not good for Mannheim.
You had Mannheim in a prime position to take this first round, to start the snowball, to have the confidence, but now they find themselves in a false sense of security going into a round point here for the overall series map point.
I caster cursed it the heck out of them, unfortunately. I said it was done and dusted. No,
stop with the voodoo.
Has more to play for here. I will. See Chambersburg 1-0, 1 map away from taking down the undefeated Mannheim Township and moving into that grand final to face off against Garnet Valley. And they're doing it with an interesting composition here, it looks. I don't know if this will stick, this composition, but this would be really interesting to see them kind of go back to their roots of like the Torbjorn, the spam composition where, oh, I love this. I love what they're going to do here. So they're actually going to just use the sim, get them closer, and just take point as quick as they can here, because they know that if they get onto point, they can realistically have a very good way of just making life miserable.
So if Widow only can get the advantage with the displacement, knocking the Roadhog out of position, Blau getting so low and taken down, that is not going to allow an early entry point onto this, even with the Symmetra teleporter. So now you have Chambersburg just in a difficult position, gonna have to basically allow it to swap.
Yeah, this is going to be a very difficult position as well, because you're trying to recontest here with an Orisa, but there's a Mercy that's gone and not in this fight, so it's a 6v5 here.
Ooh, Mr. Monopoly barely evading that fire strike up top and survives through it. Does get stable. The Citrus Fruit continues to maintain on that lower position. The Reinhardt shield and the Photon barrier, or correction, the barrier from the Zarya going to be able to withstand it. Widow only has a pixel of health, needs to be taken care of and meted very fast as the turret does go down. You do still see Siberius raining damage through the door point, back and forth exchanges, but the amplification matrix is here for Mannheim, and they should be able to take advantage of this unless you do see Squidder on this. Well, there it is. Okay, that's going to be it. Where's that direct rocket we want, Siberius? Get it onto the support, looking for the prevent the res, and not going to be able to do so, and you still have Mannheim gaining some percentage.
Manheim is the percentage. Siberius comes in with the Pharah Rocket Barrage. Is able to get 2. Are they able to get any more here? It's just stall tactics right now for Manheim. And Chambersburg are going to be eventually, I think, able to get this back, especially with their ultimate.
This is a room of inches right now with the immortality fields that have come out. It's still Manheim's percentage to be gained. Chambersburg will keep this finally in their favor, but they've given 60+% here to Manheim, and they are still probably feeling really good about that.
But now this is the best place for Chambersburg to be in, right? They can stay on point, they can, boost up their fortifications, and it's on the onus of Manheim to try and come into them. But it's so hard to do so because you're getting spammed out all the time by Orisa, by Roadhog, by Torb, and Pharah. It's just a very difficult situation for Manheim to be in.
Oh, the hook comes out. Doesn't get the takedown, though. Beautiful timing on the shield coming out from Aiden. As the rockets continue to rain down from Manheim. Looking to break down the shield as quickly as possible. Supercharger is there. You have the opportunity to dive in onto this, but the Supercharger will give some extra boost of damage, but not enough to prevent that Rocket Barrage from gaining an early advantage. As you look for a flank, trying to go behind the shield, manages to find the angle. You've got the Mercy forcing out the Valkyrie here for Chambersburg to attempt to keep them alive, and the Torbjorn still sticks close. Mr. Monopoly bails out the backside to get the health pack and looking to try and take down the 2. The flank position is there and does manage to hold on to this. It's time now to draw the clock out for this point for Chambersburg so that they can get as much percentage as possible, but Manheim will be able to dislodge the defensive position of Chambersburg.
And that's how you dislodge it. You dislodge it with a huge play from Siberius, who used Barrage and now has another one in this fight. Siberius is trying their absolute heart out here, but Widow only is going to be the one who is going to be coming out on top in that last fight. 83% right here. Siberius going to have the Barrage.
Wow, going to commit it against the Pharah. Widow only's going to take advantage of it, though, evading those incoming shots from the ultimate. 90+%. Manheim passing. Oh, the concussion with the hook and gets the advantage. This should be Manheim's fight to bring it to a round 3, but with Aiden down, you've lost the tank line. Widow only continuing to wreak havoc on the opposing side. The res comes through by Frogger, and Aiden is online and just continuing to flourish with Victoria Rose there. The overtime's going to dwindle and the staggers are going to come through. You have the pile drive attempting to keep contention on to this point, but with Widow only gaining another Rocket Barrage, the self-destruct up front to keep the zone, and we enter now into the full realm of what this best of 5 can show on a round 3.
It's going the distance here, Rich, between both of these teams, and what a way. I wouldn't have it any other way, right? With this map has been so close between both of these teams, back and forth, uppercuts, and every single map so far has been splendid, and it all ends here on this map of, well, the Orisa sticking around, it looks like, for Chambersburg. They're offering more of a double shield look, and for Manheim, looks like it's more of a dive look coming out from them. So we'll see who gets control first, because if it's Chambersburg is very hard to dive into.
Will keep the Sigma. Which, again, we've seen a lot of this crossfire generated from the Sigma play, which is going to be very helpful to play on this map as well. Also getting a lot of pressure with the positioning from the halts that can come out more frequently since the recent buff.
See Siberius here going to be on that. McCree offers the ability to put pressure onto the Pharah on the other side. Chambersburg just playing slowly here, just trying to set up their shields. Waiting patiently, but that's a lot of cleave damage, and Widow only takes out the Lucio. Ooh, that's not good for Chambersburg. No. They can't move anywhere. They have no mobility.
No, they don't. And the fact is that they're just going to continue to feel absolutely vulnerable in this small corridor in space because, like you mentioned, the cleave is there. The Winston play going into this is just going to bypass the double shield, and you have Manheim already gaining some early percentage on this.
Especially for the fact that Chambersburg didn't get the point at all during that. That's worst case scenario, and now it's just straggler kills here from Manheim. You look at Widow only, has Barrage already. This Pharah play has been absolutely stellar. Chambersburg now going to have to try and recontest. It's so hard to recontest as well with an Orisa against a Pharah like this because your shields evaporate extremely quickly.
Yeah, that health value of the shield just completely, not even comparison to the Sigma or even the Reinhardt shield. It's just so easy to take down with a couple of direct rockets. The now backline position from Widow only, just constantly taking advantage. It was first underneath corridor where nobody saw Widow only. Same thing coming out now on the high ground where nobody is ready for it, just behind the shield and constantly taking advantage.
And it looks like Chambersburg are going to try and bring out the Reaper here, which is an interesting pick. It's just basically going to be trying to contest the Winston diving in. But besides that, not going to get the most amount of value unless you're playing a very heavy flank style. There's 63% here for Mannheim. Chambersburg don't have a lot of time to work with here. This could potentially be last fight depending on when it starts.
Widow only is just fragging out right now, basically for free. There's the couple of shots that are coming through by Squidderps for harassment. Siberius now has to find a Deadeye. That's going to get full. You actually have the pickup coming from the support line. Onyx Eye having a moment since the Immortality Field was out to hyper-focus the bird out of the sky, but the res comes through by Frogger. The Valk is committed. The numbers are back on top for Mannheim, and they're looking to finish this round and move to the grand finals.
And with the picks that they're getting, I think they're going to be able to do just that, Rich. There are some low health bars here, but Citrus Fruit is alive and well in that back line. And unfortunately, Squidderp gets a hole-in-one, and this should be Mannheim getting to that grand finals and taking the series.
Citrus Fruit, we talked about Bionades, does get one in the end to shut down the Tracer. Rockets upon entry. No one from Chambersburg can hold on long enough nor get close enough to regrouping to a 6 for a contention, as you have Mannheim moving into the grand finals to face off against GVHS.
Citrus Fruit at the very end showing off their plays, but it's Mannheim who are going to be moving forward here. Our predictions are safe, Rich, for now, but going into the grand finals, I'm not so sure, but Chambersburg put up a hell of a fight, and they have nothing, or they can leave this with their heads held high, I think, because it was a game of inches. It was so close between both of them. Also, if you saw there, Widow only had 79% kill participation. That's a lot.
I mean, that's so much participation. You're feeling good after that. Just knowing that I was a pivotal role in so many of these fights. And again, going out of this, going into the grand finals, they have dropped maps now. So they are mortal, as we commented, but they're still feeling strong. But now as we take a look at them going against the 5th seed, taking down the number 1, that is going to be a real test of morale entering into this, because they've already been able to play, I wouldn't say somewhat of an underdog for the 3rd stage, because as you commented, the 3rd seed is close and in the realm of the big dogs up top. But with this 5th seed now creeping in, you need to take a moment, you need to relax, you need to level your head and know that you are going into this final moment where you want to claim that number 1 spot for this esports tournament, Chiganovi.
And we do have, we wouldn't have this esports tournament without our fantastic sponsor, Sector 6. Sector 6 is the official apparel provider of the PIEA. PIEA members can receive special offers by logging on to the URL listed below to get started customizing their official championship jersey or any number of other apparel items. So definitely shout outs to Sector 6. We were talked about it earlier. We're wearing some of their product. It's great. You can see already. I really love mine. So yeah, go shout them out. Go check that link out, because we wouldn't be here without them.
And we will be heading to a commercial break. Well, you'll have that opportunity to go look at the link and see if you can get a jersey or other apparel of your own. After the break, we will be coming back to seeing who claims the grand final victory for this PIEA State Esports Championship between Mannheim and Garnet Valley. So don't go anywhere, because you're not going to want to miss it. The 2021 PIEA State Championships are brought to you by Pennsylvania College of Technology, where the future is made by hand. Learn more at pct.edu. Sheets. Order like a pro on the Sheets app. Sheets. Run and done. ViewSonic Elite Gaming Monitors. Don't just play, play to win. And by HyperX. We're all gamers.
Tomorrow makers. They define success. They innovate their industries with technical know-how and vision, and stories only they can tell. Pennsylvania College of Technology is committing $1.25 million in existing scholarships and $250,000 in new scholarships for fall starts. This is your time. Share your story and kickstart your journey. Learn more and apply at pct.edu/2021.
College can make you look good on paper. At Penn College, we're more into looking good on steel and looking good on x-rays, with looking good in code, building and rebuilding, vision and revisions. And when it's all said and done, you'll look good to everyone. Because the past might be written on paper, but the future will be made by hand. Learn more at pct.edu.
The 2021 PIEA State Championships are brought to you by Pennsylvania College of Technology, where the future is made by hand. Learn more at pct.edu. Sheets. Order like a pro on the Sheets app. Sheets. Run and done. And by ViewSonic Elite Gaming Monitors. Don't just play, play to win.
And now let's hear from Coach Josh, who will converse about the continued development of competitive esports and its growth.
I'm Joshua Young. I am the Learning System Administrator at Penn College. I've been here for over 20 years, and I am also the head coach of our esports program, which officially started in the spring of 2019. Pennsylvania College of Technology is an applied technology school, so we have some very unique opportunities that set us apart from other college and universities. We have gamers that are in welding to culinary arts, computer science to building and construction. Every single major that we have has a gamer, so it's just important for us to grow our program in that sense. I'm totally excited to see the competition. Yes, I will watch. I'm a fan of Overwatch. It's the only game that I can actually hop in and play with my players and not be an embarrassment. So I'm just gonna look and watch, and the biggest thing is I just want to see the enjoyment. I want to see the players enjoying what they're doing up there on the stage. I want to see the fans rooting for the teams, and just continue to build this new sport into common life, basically.
Building it into common life is what we look to do here. As we do take a look at that Sheets bracket, we find ourselves in the grand finals moment that we've all been waiting for, where we have Garnet Valley High School versus Manheim Township High School. Kenobi, I am so stoked that we have been along for this ride, and now we'll just honestly get to see who's going to be able to raise their hands with power and determination to know that they've taken this #1 spot.
It all comes down to this, Rich. I mean, this is what we have left for ourselves as we're seeing our replay here, brought to you by Pennsylvania College of Technology. And I think this is going to be a very close matchup. We saw Garnet Valley kind of run over their opposition in the semifinals, but Manheim had a very, very close series, and they might be a little bit more fresh as well, because they just played that series. Garnet Valley had to sit around a little bit, wait for Manheim to finish their series, and also it was a 5-mapper, so it was quite a long time. So I wonder if that's going to play an effect at all into what we see between both of these teams, because I mean, me and you, we had Manheim as being our picks, which we will go to a little bit later, but I wouldn't be shocked if Garnet Valley comes in and just, with the momentum that they have beating Susquehanna, just go forward and win it all.
And I mean, it could go either way. You could look at it as, are they on fire? They're feeling warm and ready to go and continue on. Or is it that the fatigue starts to settle in? As you can see down below, we have our HyperX predictions, mine being for Mannheim, and yours as well, feeling that very confidently we could see that happen. But again, nothing to just sit back and feel relaxed about, because you're seeing a 5th seed take down the 1st and could look to take the 2nd seed as well.
Yeah, I mean, what a story that would be as well. You get this far by taking down the 1st seed and you beat the 2nd seed to win a championship. There's no better road than that to winning a championship. So Garnet Valley has all to play for here, the pedigree, the history, and I cannot wait to get into this grand final. Best of 5 is still going to be our format, so it's that 1st to 3. And Rich, we're starting in on Lijiang Tower. It's been the map that we started out with last week, same as this week, and it's going to be our first map to decide who gets the advantage going into this series.
Week after week, these teams have battled it out through the regular seeding season into the playoffs, and it has all been a moment waiting for this to start off on Lijiang Tower. Will Mannheim be able to take it entering in onto this first map of Lijiang Tower, or can Garnet Valley bring the upset as the 5th seed to shut down Mannheim, who we've had such high hopes and predictions for? Looking to enter now onto this Lijiang map, specifically starting off on the map of Gardens.
Seeing Widow Only sticking on to that Pharah. So it's interesting because both of these teams will probably watch each other and have some, tape on them before going into this matchup. Widow Only is going to be on the Pharah, and interestingly, Snowy's going to be on that D.Va. And we know from the last time we saw Lijiang Tower, Snowy did a very good job of making sure Pharmacy's life were miserable. But it looks like it's actually just going to be a Pharah without a pocket, so just a lot of spam here.
And needs to be very cognizant of the damage coming in. Widow has to fall back. Nice wall for separation, as you do have GVHS taking point presence first and really utilizing that inner pillar and wall to block some of the sightlines. Widow only attempting to find a side angle here just behind the shield. Will not be able to get too much. With Frogger down, you've lost the mobility. You're solely relying on Citrus Fruit's ability to heal and the Immortality Field, which hasn't come up in time. You do have Widow only taking down the Mei and still causing some mayhem in the backside, but ultimately gets picked off by the Sentry turret, and that's GVHS taking it first.
And it's so difficult with Mannheim Township, especially with Widow only going to be on that Pharah without any pocket. It's just really hard to play Pharah in that enclosed area, especially with how well Snowy has been playing against these Pharahs in general. And they're finally going to give Widow only their pocket, and they're coming up on that Pharah barrage in this next fight. Also, Graviton Surge close for Mannheim because that fight lasted so long. So Garnet Valley has a lot to look out for in this next fight. They have a sound barrier that could negate some of the follow-up if that Graviton gets a lot of people.
Yeah, and Mannheim feeling it out. They thought that they would be able to competently play without the pocket, but necessary changes had to occur. Grab going to come through. Rocket Barrage as well. The Immortality Field is there with the Photon Barrier, but it's not going to be enough. So much committed, and the Rocket Barrage still finds some serious value. And will be... Well,
Courage?
The red... Okay, the Pingu coming in big with the Mei trying to stall here, and you actually still have some decent engagement here because the tank line is low. The res is available, but unfortunately cannot manage to do so for these last few seconds, so you're still going to get some favor of GVHS to hold on here.
What on earth? That fight looked like it was completely lost by Mannheim, but the turrets and just the remake from Snowy, they weren't able to secure the kill, and Garnet Valley wins a fight they almost had no business winning. Snowy's going to have to be forced out of their self-destruct here. We'll get back into the mech, and we're at 73% here for Garnet Valley. This is the last fight for Mannheim.
I mean, honestly, Garnet Valley has been putting on a show today, taking down the first and definitely pushing and just fronting Mannheim, the 2nd seed. I'm not even sure there's going to be a full regroup of 6 from Mannheim to touch this point.
Garnet Valley definitely ate their Wheaties this morning, and Widow only going down. Snowy has just been an absolute menace on this D.Va, and you're right, I don't know if anyone gets the test here. Just going to be a lonely Hammond on point, but it won't be.
This D.Va play right now from Snowy is absolutely disgusting. Like, it has literally been the defining factor of why GVHS has been to the ability to get this to be a potential 100-0. There's a shadow that comes in, though. By 8 is the follow-up there. The Photon Barrier divides and conquers with the Sound Barrier from Cheesy Fries, and that overtime just absolutely vanishes in front of their eyes.
And I mean, GVHS, you're right. They've had a second bowl of Wheaties this morning.
I mean, they are looking very good, and I wonder what map we'll be going to next, because it is going to be Night Market here. And this is another very good map for this Symmetra play, and Pingu is going to be on that May. I like that Mannheim has decided to go off of the Pharah because they're like, okay, Snowy is just doing such a good job of countering our pharmacy essentially by themselves that we can't play this anymore. So they switch off, go to something like the Junkrat again on this map of Night Market. It is very important how the first fight goes, especially with Symmetra compositions. Usually the team that wins that fight is going to take the entire round, and Mannheim have a lot of spam damage. With that Junkrat, it is going to be extremely difficult for Garnet Valley if I still
And Garnet Valley actually had the early advancement. They got to the point first, dropping down seconds early, and the May wall also divided just slightly. But Mannheim, in the long run, still here to contest. The health values are low for both teams, and just a scrappy fight to the final few will actually go in favor of GVHS just by a small margin.
Yeah, the scrap matters because Widow only was one of the DPS who went down very early, and once that DPS is down with the Junkrat, you lose a lot of your damage output, and that's the difference maker in a fight like that from Garnet Valley. Now Garnet Valley has control at this point. They have the turrets to work with as well. Oh, but excuse me, Aiden? What in the world just happened?
Aiden just came in from a beautiful angle for that double boop. The Immortality Field was tossed just before the Maywall came up to give coverage for those that pressed onto the point, and that was just a very, very masterful play by Mannheim to take this back.
I mean, that was just unreal. That completely clutched out the fight here for Mannheim. They were able to win off of just a charge, and now they can start setting up their defense here with the Symmetra. Luckily for Garnet Valley, if you're a Garnet Valley fan out there, you have the Photon Barrier to work with, so it's a little bit easier for you to move into this point.
Now going to get the teleporter to dodge back, but the minefield, or the concussion mine is there from Widow only to take down the Baptiste. Easy cleanup for Mannheim, and they're going to feel very confident continuing to sustain on this point and generate percent.
Yeah, their Garnet Valley rolls a D2, and unfortunately they roll the wrong side of it because they use the Photon Barrier to split the map, but they split it in the wrong way and they go to the wrong side, and now Luke is actually going to be switching over to the Pharah themselves. You know Luke to be a very good Pharah in their own right, but you look at the ultimate economy right now for Mannheim, so much tempo. They just need to realistically be safe and not get too much in the crossfires of Luke.
Yeah, just stacked right now. Oh, and you can see Luke getting a little aggressed on. Needs to be careful. Photon Barrier comes out by Arsenatra with a Earth Shatter up front by Aiden. No real value for the knockdown or any crown controls. The Rip Tire is available. You've got Widow only looking to play near the wall. Nobody knows exactly where they're positioned. Going immediately over, gets the instant pickup onto the Baptiste. That's more than worthwhile. You remove the Immortality Field and the explosive healing, solely relying now on Cheese Fries, who doesn't have the Valkyrie. The Blizzard comes in with Snowy and the Self-Destruct, attempting to try and dislodge. And actually, despite the Baptiste going down, there's enough from those two ultimates that GVHS takes it back.
And Mannheim used a lot to commit to that fight, right? They used 3 ultimates. They're luckily able to keep their most important ones in terms of the Sound Barrier and the Graviton Surge, but goodbye, Frogger. You're not going to have a Sound Barrier anymore, and this is just more time that's ticking up here for Garnet Valley. Barrage available for Luke. Where are they going to decide to use this?
Frogger's feeling like they were trying to cross the street and found themselves an SUV with that one, as you've got the wall going to completely bring down this aggression. The Rocket Barrage, though, from Luke does get 2. You see Aiden looking for a charge reposition, looking to take it back. 77% looks to continue climbing, but unfortunately GVHS is still going to be there to contest, allowing them to surpass the percentage gain by Mannheim to potentially, in the long run of this, get into a more favorable position to take it and draw this out. But GVHS still hasn't been able to lose it yet.
The respawns were there, but unfortunately just not there soon enough, and Mannheim maybe sticking on this composition still. It's really difficult to get back onto point with Symmetra because the teleporter gets taken down very early. A nice wall from Pink. I mean, what else can we say?
Oh my goodness, but a counter shatter onto 4. The Immortality Field is there, but it's going to be too little too late for Snowy, but it's actually still going to be the Self-Destruct despite the DMech, because of the damage, getting the value, the remech and the Micro Rockets taking down the support. GVHS is literally on fire. 5th seed doesn't mean anything when you're playing like this.
Garnet Valley is playing out of their minds right now, Rich. So much momentum on their side. The DPS have been phenomenal. I mean, everyone on Garnet Valley is playing great, but the DPS are really stepping it up. Specifically, Pingu with these walls. I mean, it seems like every time there's a wall from the Pingu, it's getting killed.
It's unbelievable just to see this type of rally that has come out from GVHS. And they should be feeling confident. They've taken down the #1 seed, which I think you and I both anticipated that it would be Susquehanna versus Mannheim. But now we see Garnet Valley facing off against the #2 seed, feeling confident that they're like, you know, we already beat one. Why not beat the second? We've taken this first map of control. We're continuing to build our confidence in this and saying, we got this. And they are one step closer to being able to take this Grand Finals title.
One step closer, and they have an advantage. Now, again, this is a situation that Mannheim's not used to, right? Before the previous series, they hadn't lost a map yet. Now they are down again in this Grand Finals series where there's so much more pressure on them because it's that Grand Finals. And I wonder what map we go to next, because I would expect that it's a map where Mannheim realistically wants to fight them on even ground, because I think they want to play more of that rush style, and I think GVHS can play it, but I don't know if they have the same amount of prep work as they do as like Mannheim. I really like Mannheim's rush in general, and we'll see, though. If there's a way to beat it, it's going to be now.
Yeah, and, you know, going into this again, Mannheim so far with their map choices have been consecutively winning on their choice. So that is one definite benefit so far, at least from the two, outside of going to that control point, which was default in the map 5. So that's a little bit of an exclusion in this from analysis of last match that we did have entering Mannheim into the Grand Finals. But, you know, we'll be curious to see if there's going to be any substitutes as well. These teams have been also very highly, you know, dynamic in their hero pool, understanding where and when they need to make these swaps that have been very critical for them to take advantage of their opponents.
It looks like we are going to be going to Blizzard World as our next map here. So, which is interesting because this is a... Huh?
No King's Row today at all.
Oh, that's
for
weird.
The Grand Finals. Think about that. Think about that, right?
Wait. Yeah, we always get King's Row.
This is the first day, I think, in probably since the beginning of the year that we've actually not had a King's Row visible in a tournament match game. That's
incredible. But it looks like it is going to be Blizzard World. And this is interesting because I think this means that Mannheim's going to be taking out R. Santana and putting in Joey, who seems like they're more hit scan specialist, more so than I think R. Santana is. And we did see Mannheim lose this map pretty hard in our last series. So I wonder, does GVHS kind of take a little bit of that spice given to them by the previous team and are like, okay, why don't we just use this? This seemed to work out really well.
I mean, the Torbjorn and the Ashe yielded so much value in this. And if they did just take even a small margin of time to evaluate their player while on the break from their first match that we had earlier today for the first semifinal match, they could use that to their advantage. But at the same time, they also have to be very aware of what was underway with this Doomfist play. And if they do not acknowledge Widow only, that is going to be their demise.
Yep. And it looks like we are going to be going into the map very soon here. I mean, the thing about this map is interesting as well, because this is Mannheim's pick. They also picked this map. We have to remember that. They picked this map, and they got stomped on it when they last played it. So I think that they basically said, okay, we've learned from our mistakes. We can play this map. We don't expect any, you know, Torbjorn Ashe shenanigans here. We're having a little bit of a dance party right now on the defense for Garnet Valley. They are feeling good.
I mean, they really are. They've managed to find themselves now on Blizzard World with a match win to start it off and feeling extremely good about it. They drop in the bass and listening to the beats. And now, as we do have, again, the attacking side going to be Mannheim defensively, we'll see how well that Garnet Valley is going to be able to hold off against this to set the bar.
Did see Joey play the Widowmaker earlier, so the Widowmaker obviously offers that range advantage against a composition like this. Garnet Valley doesn't have necessarily the same amount of range to deal with a Widowmaker. So if you're Mannheim, you're just trying to get space for your Widowmaker and give them good sightlines. But there's a nice wall again from Pingu.
Wow. That wall is critical, but there is still so much damage being funneled through that narrow corridor. Widow only is just pumping grenade after grenade onto this front line, especially with those barriers coming out from the Zarya play. The D-Mech is there. Snowy is no longer able to mitigate damage with the defense matrix as the Riptire comes out for how quickly that's been generated. Gets a double and just wants to go on a rampage in the back line. Mayhem is right, but this time it comes in the form of just spam damage and not the afterlife.
I mean, there are still people here. Snowy's here along with Luke, and I don't think that they have enough here along with the Reinhardt. No, that's going to be it. While the Junkrat works out really well, Snowy just goes into the backline, takes out the Widowmaker, and a fight that looked like it was completely won by Mannheim just doesn't end up working out for them as Garnet Valley clutches it up. And Garnet Valley is in a very good position right now in terms of their ultimates. Look at this. You have High Noon. You have a Sound Barrier soon. You're also going to have your Baptiste Ant Matrix. And Mannheim have switched their composition, bring in a Reaper. So this, is again, is a very close-range composition. Oh, my God.
Oh, my goodness. But there is some aggression outright from the doorway. You can see an immediate opportunity for Mannheim to take it, but GVHS retaliates back with a Sound Barrier to make sure that they are full and topped off to take that now to already half of the time bank.
Yeah, GVHS is just playing this so well. Joey tries to go around on the flank to take out the Baptiste, but Baptiste is there with an amplification, or with Immortality Field and with a Sound Barrier, so they're totally fine. Pingu coming in here with this Blizzard. It's going to be a big deal because, again, Mannheim's composition likes to play in enclosed areas, and May Blizzard is going to shred through teams in enclosed areas, so you really got to be careful if you're Mannheim aggressing here. And, oh, Aiden's down. That means this fight can't happen.
Yep, drop the sheet. Oh, and the Maywall's going to just force the team to be locked into a corner. That, just look at the sitting ducks. You are just very, very easily going to take advantage of that. I do like the disengagement here, though, from Mannheim not losing more than I think that they would have.
Well, they have to leave, actually, now. Like, they are like, not leaving as quickly as they thought.
I thought the same. I honestly would have felt that they would have drew back past the statue to try and recover so they at least have some kind of cover, but they didn't, and GVHS is in even a better position now.
And that's really bad because now with only a minute left for Mannheim, this is the last fight you're going to get. You're not getting another one. Luckily, Mannheim have 6 ultimates in their bank to just try and smack Garnet Valley with their wallets, but Garnet Valley aren't looking too shabby in their own ultimate economy either. They still have that May Blizzard, which could be the thing that makes the entire difference.
You now have the Deadeye coming out from Luke, looking to beat the corner, getting a decent angle with also the wall to try and get an elevated position. Just sidesteps the Earth Shatter, so there is an opportunity to survive through this with the Widow only. Riptire coming in from the back on the attack. Is it going to find value as Joey manages to get Snowy before the remake can occur? But 2-for-2 exchange. You do still have GVHS in this fight, especially when you've got Mercy Main, by the way, on the Baptiste getting a double. The Death Blossom attempts to equalize. You've at least got rid of one support, but still there is more than enough to survive with Mercy Main.
And Mannheim didn't get a tick throughout all of that. Mannheim has to make desperate swaps to try and get back onto this point and contest. Widow only is on that Doomfist, but they're walking into an Ant Matrix here. They have to go the long way.
Yep, they got to go to the outer side. You do have the grab as you're going to potentially see it toss out and try and hold them to the left side to look for a rotation flank, but the Immortality Field is there as the numbers are going to completely get eliminated on Mannheim. Round 1 of the defensive position from GVHS is flawless, not allowing a single percentage going to Mannheim.
GVHS is on fire right now. A full hold against Mannheim, the team that we predicted would win the entire tournament. A full hold here. This is now only drawable for Mannheim in the scenario. And I mean, Garnet Valley, the way that they're playing, just they're soaking up so much pressure. Like that first fight where Widow only is just continuously lobbing in grenades, the way that they were able to just stay composed and stay alive through that situation is just incredible to me.
As we take the side swaps to see if the fire can continue to blaze. There is a tall task ahead of Mannheim right now. And again, I could foresee them with Widow only being a key factor here on this defensive hold, drawing this out to a potential match draw. But there is still some very aggressive, dominant play that, I mean, we could both agree has surpassed what we thought of Mannheim in previous conflicts.
Definitely agree there. And with Widow only on that defensive end, is Garnet Valley aware of it? Because the last team that played against Blizzard World, they weren't aware of it for a lot of the time. They only got that tick, did Chambersburg, by just throwing all their ultimates into a fight. So we'll see if Garnet Valley tries to play it a little bit more slowly here. We have the Ashe, who's going to be damage boosted and can get a lot of cleave damage done. Oh, wait, they don't know where they are. Oh, that Dynamite didn't get any value.
No, it didn't, and you can see now that GVHS looking to push through. Takes knows exactly from the previous position. Snowy's gonna jet booster on top to make sure that that is an instant takedown. What a beautiful read, and they have learned from the previous match that they watched to make this uneasy pickup. Widow only is probably sitting there just hands off the keyboard, wishing that they would have played just a slight margin different. And that is going to now be GVHS putting Mannheim in a terrible position on match point.
Garnet Valley read Mannheim like a book there on that offense.
Absolutely.
Knew exactly where the Doomfist was. Take out the Doomfist, and once that Doomfist is down, it's a 6v5. They don't have to worry about any displacement, and it's a win for them. Beautifully played by GVHS, and they are one map away from making us look like fools, Rich, because we didn't predict them. We didn't. If you asked me like before, like, oh, who do you think is like the team that you know, percentage-wise wouldn't think it would get here, I'd be like, okay, Garnet Valley, but they're running through. They're running through the first seed. They're in the process of running through the second seed, and Mannheim has to dig deep here and find something deep in them, because only now can you reverse sweep.
It makes me just think of track and field when you're at that last margin and you expend every last ounce of energy in the tank just to push you past the line. That's what Garden Valley High School is doing right now, to just make sure that they keep the distance in front of Mannheim, because I agree with you, we did not foresee Garnet being such a dominant, relentless force going into this. And now that we find ourselves on match point, once again, Mannheim has to choose their map, and Garnet gets to choose the side. And I mean, it's dig deep moment for this reverse sweep, and it's a tall mountain. It's continued to grow. The mountain has continued to rise because the volcano under the water has continued to just erupt, making it bigger.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a mountain that like keeps getting bigger, like you mentioned. Every time you take a step, it feels like there's like 2 more steps added every single time. And our map is going to be Havana for our third one. The potential last map that we have here, interesting that it's going to be Havana, because this is a map that usually like favors a lot of these long range hit scan compositions. Your Ashe, your Widowmakers. Joey is still in the lineup, so that tells me that Widowmaker or Ashe is definitely a possibility here. But the way that they've been playing for the side of Garnet Valley High School, I think they're totally fine with this map. They are going to be bringing out Farah, which is interesting. This feels a little bit more like a Chengdu style as we're going to be going into game here, so you can see what compositions we're seeing as well. This feels a little bit like Chengdu to me, because Chengdu will also do this. Well, they'll play Farah on this map specifically. Luke, what are you doing?
Move forward, Diva. I'm tired of your mech being in my way.
Door stuck.
But again, you know, you mentioned the Chengdu type of style, which I do think is something that can be beneficial here. But what we're going to see on this attacking the defensive position from Garnet Valley, a very close hold, looking to try and stop, is we have an interesting composition. Widow only going to attempt to the pirate ship on this map of Escort, but Luke is just going to get a free reign damage with these rockets overhead and just feeling on high.
I mean, literally how many times can Pingu just get a wall and win fights? That was all on Pingu. Pingu was able to funnel them directly into Luke's rockets, was able to also at the same time negate the Bastion sight lines. There is a pick on the Mercy Main, by the way, that could be resurrected, and Luke is just on another level right now. Doesn't have their pocket and knows that has to play a little bit more safe.
Uncontested here. Snowy's gonna get D-Mexed, but there's still a battle. Diva getting a pick, looking for the second support as Luke comes out over top. This is just a masterclass right now of frontline hold as the remake comes through. Snowy survives and allows GVHS to hold on for a solid minute plus.
This has been another fantastic wall from the Pingu. The Baptiste is down. Finally, Pingu gets taken out. They've figured out who the carry is in this position. Here comes the barrage, possibly. No, I'm just going to go for the direct rockets.
Oh my goodness, this is just a massacre right now. You need Mannheim to try and coordinate. Finally gets rid of Luke, no longer raining rockets overhead. They've been able to break this wall down and can start to get momentum onto this payload.
But I mean, look how much time has already been taken off the clock here. Ooh, that shatter does not get anything, and Aiden actually goes down. And this might be a chance for Garnet Valley to recontest here. No Reinhardt on the other side.
With the Reinhardt down, you can see Swap. It's going to be an Earth Shatter coming out by Vjan, but goes down. Blizzard also available by Pingu to toss it out. And GVHS getting a little aggressive here. I think that's going to start spelling their demise as they approach this doorway, Kenobi.
The car hasn't moved that much, though, so there will be a chance for a recontest. Snowy actually is able to get another. Snowy is just incredible with the Bunny Blaster. I don't think I've ever seen a diva play that well with Bunny Blaster before, but Garnet Valley will get another recontest here. Barrage is ready and available. Ant Matrix is here too. Snowy will have self-destruct, so this is not just a free point take here for Mannheim.
Widow only now in the back line. You have the Dragon Strike trying to divide and conquer, getting some presence near the point. Rockets come out though, gets the double. Luke able to shut down quite a bit here, putting Mannheim in a very, very difficult position on the attacking side, but they're going to have 1 minute. They'll get one last regroup. They're holding on to some decent ultimates here and going to try and snowball away. Oh, actually, you're going to have Joey come in with a nice double kill.
No way. Joey actually can turn this. There's a possibility that Joey can turn this. The respawns are closer for Mannheim.
You can see Snowy needed to be very careful getting hit from both angles with the Wrecking while playing the opposing side of the McCree. Joey nearing that Deadeye as well for a zoning ultimate as there's 45 seconds to go. Snowy gonna toss that self-destruct. Also drop down in the side. The Immortality Field is there for Mannheim to withstand the explosion radius as Victoria Rose is really demonstrating how they could be a worthy diva player as well with a cleanup. 30 seconds to go, and now it's just the final focus on the remaining two.
And now Mannheim can breathe a little bit here after these staggered kills are gone, and just the stall. Cheese Fries is trying to resurrect their friend in the Baptiste, but Joey has had enough. Joey is angry, and Mannheim have a new lease on life here. 3.5 minutes about for them to move forward into this distillery phase. I wonder if Garnet Valley decides to stick with the Pharah here, because in this enclosed area, Pharah can get encountered pretty easily, so they are going to go back over to the McCree, so running more of that standard rush style of composition. And Mannheim don't have that. There's a minefield coming in from the Hammond. Not going to get a ton of value though.
Only going to still play that high ground position, has the Dragon Strike here, looking to see if they can potentially get a couple of picks in the back line. Does get a nice evasive jump, but there's a flashbang that takes out the support line. Frogger's no longer here. Citrus Fruit's going to be the only support looking to try and sustain the healing. Going to be a tall task as you've got Aiden up front with the Wrecking Ball. Nice dislodgement, moving back too, but does get flashbang, left alone, doesn't really have the shield for defenses, looks for the health pack, barely escapes by the skin of their teeth. With 1 minute and 50 still to go. As you've got Mannheim looking to hold and finds a side angle with the Deadeye. Could get a stack here as they're hiding behind the box. They're not even going to leave. Look at the dots just stacking on each other, Kenobi.
Yeah, I mean, the Hammond was trying to get in there and disrupt them, but Luke takes him down. There's the image still converted from both of these teams here. Here comes the self-destruct.
Oh, wow. Pingu also going to get a couple of great pickups onto the Baby Diva outside of the mech along with Joey, so that's a nice hold. 1:25 seconds still to go, and this is now another final 2 fights probably left for Mannheim,
yeah,
unless they get back quick.
Yeah, 2 fights most likely, depending on how long they go. Actually, I mean, depending on when they get here for Mannheim, it actually might just be a singular fight. Garnet Valley coming up on some very key ultimates here. You've got that Blizzard that's soon. They have the Sound Barrier as well from Cheese Fries, which will be incredibly important to negate some of the follow-up coming in from whatever Mannheim wants to do, because Mannheim don't have a lot of ultimates to put here.
No, they don't. Pile drive up top does get stunned. Flash banged out. Luke manages to get the Deadeye to try and take advantage of this on the defensive position. You still have a lot of shots coming out, though, by Citrus Fruit. Very aggressive. Self-destruct tossed overhead with a Dragon Strike as well. Immortality Field is there, and it's going to be quickly taken down, so the Dragon Strike gets a triple kill. And this should be enough to push this forward into those final meters that are necessary for Mannheim to draw this into that third and final stretch.
Love what Mannheim did there. They basically checkmated Garnet Valley and said, you can't move here with the Celta Truck and the Dragon Strike in this area. And here comes the minefield just to zone members off. Are Garnet Valley even going to be able to touch?
Aiden just constantly trying to slow the double minefields. Nobody's going to walk in that corridor. You have to take the long way around underneath. Luke goes, wow, diving forward, knowing that they've got the sound barrier, getting some assistance as well onto Joey. Self-destruct in the back will take down the support line with the 4 seconds remaining. Mannheim's not going to be able to recover from this one, but they are still able to work their way through a majority of this brewery and distillery that they have still confidence in looking that they can hold against this of their own.
This is a winnable situation here for Mannheim. They can hold, but Garnet Valley had a very good defense at the very end that they played so patiently, waited for all their members to come back into the fight before they committed any ultimates, and the win condition is set. That golden box of victory is all that separates you and a championship if you're Garnet Valley.
And now as we take the swap of sides, this is the moment. It is the time for Mannheim to dig deep to try and be able to hold on the defensive position to bring it to another map. It is one step in the right direction if they can, but they still have many more and many inches to gain to try and claim this grand finals. And as we take a look at the defensive position, we see that Mannheim is opting to go with Widow only on the Pharah, Joey on the Mei. And we will be able to see if that is a worthy composition to be able to hold GBHS back just as well on that initial hold from the doorway.
Yeah, they're trying to do exactly what Garnet Valley did to them with this close hold here. But I think, man, I think Garnet Valley is aware of this right now. They see... Ooh, are they going to be seen? They're all like looking out through the window like, put your face to the glass.
Like you're a kid at a candy store looking through the window, or a pastry shop. Oh, pastry shop. I would prefer it over a candy shop.
We talked about food inevitably on this show.
I know, we do. It never falls short in any broadcast, my friend. As the doors open, we will see how Widow Only is going to fend off on this defensive hold.
And I think actually something that they did really well with Garnet Valley here is they have a Roadhog here who's just on the flank and actually gets the hook kill onto the Pharah. And this feels like a very much you can't beat the master in my own composition. And the Roadhog pick works out extremely well for Garnet Valley. There was really not much time to block here. Luckily enough, Mannheim will get one last. We'll get a second fight in this area, but my goodness, Garnet Valley knows what they're doing.
Yeah, they really, really do. And now with 3 minutes and 15 seconds, you are going to see Widow Only have to draw back and change compositions, which is going to be lost time. And they're opting to go with the Doomfist to see if this will be the hero play to hold on with such a time bank gain.
The Doomfist, they do still have the ability, though, to get back onto the point. There's a nice wall from Pingu. The right heart's caught.
Oh, and he's stuck. And now a counter wall trying to block, but still left alone. There is assistance. Vjan gets overwhelmed, but the Immortality Field comes out by Mercy Main with the Amplification Matrix as well. Mannheim holding defensively here, though, will be able to sustain. Finally finding some opportunities. The window that is so shy, but it has been able to exploit. But no, Luke and Snowy still turn it around regardless. Here is Snowy once again with the baby Diva looking for the outplay. Doesn't manage. Finally being outmaneuvered on the attacking side and holds. The bleeding has been cauterized.
25 health, so close there, but it's just not enough. Garnet Valley coming back in now. This is a decent position for Widow Only. They can play off this high ground, make some engages, and try and disrupt what Garnet Valley is bringing to the table here.
From Luke, trying to zone to the outer position. Looks like it could be a focus onto the Reinhardt. Looks for a charge. Does get the Zarya with it. So now you've lost that protective barrier. Aiden is so low on the front, and Snowy takes full advantage of it immediately after taking down Citrus Fruit. Snowy being an MVP on these pickups and just ability to play this diva role with 1 minute and 40 seconds to go. They're looking for the stagger now onto the Mei, which Joey is fending for their lives and won't be able to do so as 1 minute 30 is closely about to climb.
And you can see just how good of a read Garnet Valley have on this team right now. They know that Aiden's going to go back to cart, and there's already a Blizzard there waiting for them because of all of the space making and disruption that they were making with those walls. Garnet Valley is just on another level right now, and Mannheim have everything to play for right here. Aiden's going to go very low and ends up going down, actually.
Blizzard's going to be up front trying to slow this down. Meteor Strike comes through by Widow only. It's only going to be able to get one flashbang with a rotation by Luke. Manages to find the Baptiste and shut it down. The supports the... Oh! Gonna get a mech kill as well. Snowy should literally be melting right now for how much they're on fire.
Snowy might be MVP as well. Snowy has just had a phenomenal last 2 series of Overwatch. This Diva play out of this world so far. Garnet Valley moving forward. One fight separates them between the golden box of victory and the championship win here at PIEA. Here comes the high noon coming in from Luke, comboed along with Ant Matrix just to create some space here.
Gloria Rose looking to try and play it back, doesn't want to get overwhelmed. The shields need to come back online for the assistant. Sound barriers there from the low ground in the back by Cheesy Fries, getting a majority except for Mercy Main, but still keeping a great positioning as they approach this golden box. The Blizzard comes out up top from Joey to give the assistance on the main ground, as Luke will manage to take down the support. Needs to be careful though, because there's still an opportunity to recover. 2 minutes and 40 seconds. This fight has reached its end, but Mannheim is still not out of this just yet.
And Aiden's actually going to use the shatter there. I think a little bit of a fat finger. Not going to have that one for the next fight, but it seemed like they were having a little bit of a laugh about it. Widow Only is going to be able to go in here with this Meteor Strike. Will most likely get it by the time they take the fight, and that means they can play a little bit more aggressively here. They can get that second life that Meteor Strike offers you. Garnet Valley, 2 minutes to work with here. We'll get one more ultimate rotation before this map ends. There's the Ant Matrix to try and zone them out.
Gonna see that potential follow-up. You've got Citrus Fruit. Just at this point, I mean, it's a great play by GVHS, waiting for it to drop. No need to go into this since they've got plenty of time to work with the pin, trying to come through. Nice healing still from Citrus Fruit up top. The wall to separate the Ryan, but Snowy manages to get rid of the Doomfist play, and that is going to be a numbers advantage with the Immortality Field tossed out. Luke gets another one. The numbers continue to dwindle. 1 minute and 40 seconds, and the Blizzard is almost online for the Pingu, as you still can see that be the match-winning ultimate towards the end of this. The Zarya goes down. There will be able to find a recontest here if the remaining few can stagger it out. You only have the Meteor Strike gaining 1 onto Mercy Main, and it's still gonna not find as much value, but
you got 2
Widow only just trying to hold on here as the numbers come back into this, Kenobi.
And Garnet Valley has to make a decision, and they're actually going to commit to this. Blizzard is used. Can they take down Aiden? Sound barrier's still there to keep him alive, but so much damage output from the Blizzard, and Garnet Valley are getting the picks that they need to move forward.
You can see it's just in their reaches, their grasp. They are just about to taste the victory of this 2021 PIEA Esports Tournament champion. As now 51 seconds remain. The grab comes out on the front. The sound barrier's there to respond by Cheese Fries. You've got the charge from the side position as the Earth Shatter comes out. Joey has to jump into that Blizzard. It's not going to be able to get anything unless there is a follow through. It does actually hold the self-destruct from Snowy. Might be able to secure it. The gap continues to close. 35 seconds to go. Garnet Valley is going to be able to chance out in the grand scale of it all. We have our goals, we have our dreams, we have our drive and our passion to shut down Mannheim Township, a dream of a perfect tournament fading in the darkness as Mannheim not only loses a map, but they lose the grand finals with their hands held high for Garnet Valley as the 5th seed tournament winners.
What a story from Garnet Valley. I mean, what a road to get here. Not only did they 3-0 Susquehanna High School, they also 3-0 Mannheim, the 1st seed and the 2nd seed in this tournament. If that's not a glorious road to a championship, I don't know what is. Putting the defining factor that you are deserving of the championship by beating the 1st and 2nd seed, beating them convincingly as well. Huge congratulations to Garnet Valley High School. Well deserved. Very good Overwatch played all day today. Definitely, again, deserving of the championship that they have here.
I can tell you that they are jumping out of their seats with excitement as we take a look at the bracket to end it all by Sheets, who has been a fantastic sponsor among so many over the course of this tournament. 3-0. We know that we have not seen a perfect score from them in the season, but at least in the playoffs, we have seen them go 3 Overwatch over Northwest, Susquehanna, And also Mannheim, our caster's choice. We can hold our heads as high as we'd like, but they're holding them higher because this was a masterful play from Garnet Valley coming out and taking this championship.
I mean, you can see the replays here, sponsored by Pennsylvania College of Technology. Just, again, it felt like every single time that Mannheim tried to do something, Garnet Valley was just that little bit quicker, right? Even when there were advantages for Mannheim, Garnet Valley didn't really crack under the pressure a lot of the times. They played so coordinated, so cohesive. They weren't stressed out, it felt like, ever. It just felt like we're going to play our game. This is how we're going to play it. And it worked out extremely well for them. The Pingu probably gets MVP, but Snowy also I feel like there was everyone contributed to this win coming in from Garnet Valley High School, and 3-0ing your way through this tournament, beating I believe it was the 4th seed, the 1st seed, and the 2nd seed. You can see here the you can see here the prize winnings brought to you by HyperX, and nice chunk of change for our winners.
Absolutely, and ViewSonic Gaming Monitors also contributing to that as well. $1,400 for a scholarship prize pool going to Garnet Valley. But again, Mannheim is not leaving empty-handed. They will get some lovely tech from our sponsors, along with the $600 for the 2nd place to go towards their education, so they can still hold their heads high and knowing that they had a glorious stretch over these last 8+ weeks. And in the end, unfortunately, not finding that number 1 spot, but still having something to, be able to walk home with and feeling confident, Kenobi.
Definitely. I mean, it wasn't the tournament that you wanted in terms of just like getting to go on the stages, but you still got to the grand finals, and that's nothing to shake a stick at. So hats off to Mannheim, hats off to Garnet Valley, hats off to everyone in our Final Four today, because these are the 4 teams that I think are probably the best in the region right now, and Garnet Valley kind of taking the trophy home this time, but in another world or in another tournament, it definitely could have gone a different way.
It really could have, but we'll be heading to a short break before concluding with our final thoughts of this PIEA Esports State Championship, so don't go anywhere, because we'll be seeing you just on the other side of it.
The 2021 PIEA State Championships have been brought to you by Sheets. Order like a pro on the Sheets app. Sheets, run and done. Pennsylvania College of Technology, where the future is made by hand. Learn more at pct.edu. ViewSonic Elite Gaming Monitors. Don't just play to win. And by HyperX. We're all gamers.
Well, friends, we welcome you back to our final thoughts, as now we do want to say that it has been an absolute pleasure. Kenobi, it has been a sheer and utter joy. We've been a part of, academic Overwatch casting for quite some time, and this was a great opportunity for us to now also dabble in the realm of high school play, which, again, is the cream of the crop to continue moving their way in this esports industry, and cannot wait to see how they continue to develop.
I mean, I loved every second of it. A lot of really great Overwatch here between all of these teams that we saw between this week and last week. And our Final Four was great. We had a 5-map series that went down to the absolute wire. Garnet Valley shows that they are one of the best teams in high school right now. And I was really just impressed overall with the level of play that I saw. Like, it was really good Overwatch a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm. And what a way to end for today. We had Rocket League yesterday and Overwatch today. There will always be more esports to come, but from the broadcast here for today and so far in this portion of the season, that will be it from us. We do want to say a huge shout out and thanks to all of the sponsors who have been involved in this, because they also continue to boost us, making us give an opportunity for these high school students. Again, if you'd like to find out more, definitely head over to PIEA's website so you can get information on upcoming events and also what more you can do to contribute as well. So take care, happy gaming, and we do hope that you have a spectacular weekend to come.